Chapter 12:10. Yu Qianqiu replied with an, "Oh," and looked back at Twilight City. Unfortunately, he couldn't see the broken statue anymore. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "So that broken statue is the statue of the demon god? Why did so many powerful ancient gods not leave any statues in the three realms, but this unknown demon god? Nobody knows about you? Are you kidding me?" Hong Tailong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He pointed at him as he flew, not knowing what to say. "What's wrong?" Yu Qianqiu was puzzled. "Did I say something wrong? Could there be a demon god among the ancient gods in the legends? But why have I never heard of it?" Hong Tailong scratched his head and didn't know how to explain. He smiled bitterly and said, "This demon god appeared earlier than the ancient gods. But when the ancient gods became famous, she was already gone. It's not strange that you haven't heard of her. In fact, there aren't many people who know of her. If I wasn't from the dragon race, I might not have heard of her either." "Oh, seems like she's a very powerful person. Tell me, what's going on with this demon god?" Since the journey was boring, Yu Qianqiu suddenly became interested. "Let me explain it to you this way." Hong Tailong organized his thoughts and explained with a solemn expression. "The demon god was originally a servant of Tao. My dragon race's coiling dragon ancestor and phoenix race's great phoenix god were the left and right envoys of the demon god a long time ago. I heard that the demon god was later sent to another spacetime by Tao. I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, the demon god disappeared after that. Since then, my dragon race's coiling dragon ancestor and phoenix race's great phoenix god directly listened to Tao." "Do you think she's powerful?" "Powerful?" Yu Qianqiu took a deep breath and said in shock. "Even great phoenix god and coiling dragon god are her envoys. Oh my, then how high is her cultivation? I wonder if she's compared to the former great god Yi, whose cultivation is higher. I don't know about that. I've never heard of them competing before, so I can't compare." Hong Tailong scratched his head and pondered. "But the demon god appeared earlier than great god Yi. It should be because the demon god's cultivation is higher. Otherwise, how could the dire monster goddess Nuwa have become the maidservant of the Tao?" What? When Yu Qianqiu heard this, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He suddenly grabbed Hong Tailong, and the two of them stopped above the vast netherworld river. Hong Tailong was instantly baffled. He realized that Yu Qianqiu's hand, which was grabbing onto his arm, was actually trembling. He asked in astonishment, "What's wrong with you? Yu, what did you just say?" Yu Qianqiu's voice trembled. It was hard to tell if he was excited or shocked. He tried his best to calm down and asked, "What did you say the demon god was called? Can you repeat it? I didn't hear you clearly. What's the name of the demon god?" Hong Tailong was at a complete loss. With a blank expression, he said, "The name of the demon god is Nuwa. What's wrong? Is there a problem?" Nuwa. It's actually Nuwa, a human head and a snake body. I was wondering why this sculpture looked so familiar." Yu Qianqiu suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of Twilight City. However, he could only see the vast netherworld river and nothing else. He looked in that direction with a confused expression and muttered to himself, "Nuwa. It's actually the Nuwa who refined the multicolored stone to mend the sky. So Nuwa was originally a person of this world. What's going on?" When Hong Tailong heard him mumbling to himself, he could not help but nudge him and ask, "What are you talking about this time? What refining the five-colored stone to mend the heavens? What people of this world? I've never heard of any of them. Don't tell me you've met Goddess Nuwa." "Goddess Nuwa? What a familiar name." Yu Qianqiu's face was filled with bitterness. Suddenly, he thought of something and grabbed Hong Tailong again. He asked with widened eyes, "What did you just say? You said that the dire monster goddess Nuwa was sent to another spacetime by the Tao. Which spacetime is it? Are you crazy?" Hong Tailong pulled back his sleeves and said with a baffled expression, "That's what the legend says. But how would I know which spacetime she was sent to? You're asking me, but who am I supposed to ask? I say, did you take the wrong medicine? Why are you competing with Goddess Nuwa? The netherworld river is below. Even if your brain is filled with water, you should jump down first. Damn you, why am I competing with her? She's the one competing with me, all right? Yu Qianqiu said with grief and indignation. Damn it! Of all the names she could have, why did she have to be called Niwa? Isn't this a trap? Who did I offend to be sent here to trace the source? She's competing with you. Hong Tailong revealed a mocking smile. He was just short of saying, you think you're worthy. However, he was startled right after and couldn't help but let out a soft gasp of surprise. He muttered, refining the multicolored stone, refining the multicolored stone. Hearing this, Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up. He grabbed Hong Tailong's neck with both hands and shook him, saying, have you heard of this legend as well? His current cultivation was much higher than Hong Tailong's. How could Hong Tailong endure his death grip? Hong Tailong's eyes rolled back, as he was pinched to the point where his eyes rolled back. With great difficulty, he managed to pry Jiang Yi's hand away. He roared, are you crazy? This old dragon has a grudge against you. It was a slip of the hand, a slip of the hand. After apologizing profusely, Yu Qianqiu said with sincerity, have you also heard of the legend of Niwa refining the multicolored stone to mend the heavens? Tui, where did you hear that lousy legend? Mend the heavens? I think it's more like mend the earth. Why don't you mend the heavens for me to see? Hong Tailong pointed at the illusory sky in annoyance. He twisted his neck that was being strangled. After relaxing for a while, he said, speaking of refining the multicolored stone, I vaguely remember hearing another legend when I was in the dragon race. It seems like the demon goddess Niwa also possesses the 5 elemental mystic arts just like you. I don't know if I've remembered wrongly, or if I've really heard of it before. My Lord Tailong, please don't remember wrongly. Yu Qianqiu bowed repeatedly and pleaded. Please think carefully again. Hong Tailong waved his hand, indicating that he shouldn't disturb him. Yu Qianqiu immediately held his breath and waited with rapt attention. He looked at Hong Tailong's wandering gaze as he racked his brains. After a long while, Hong Tailong scratched his forehead and said, I seem to have heard someone say this back then. They said that if a person was proficient in the 5 elemental mystic arts, then that person would have grasped one of the most mystical sources in the world and could create a living person out of thin air. It seems like someone used Goddess Niwa as an example and said that Goddess Niwa could create humans. Then, according to this saying, doesn't it mean that Goddess Niwa was also proficient in the 5 elemental mystic arts? As he said that, he shook his head and said, I really can't remember clearly. It seems like I've heard someone casually mention it once. As for the specifics, no matter how you force me, I can't remember it. Niwa created humans. Yu Qianqiu was once again dumbfounded. He couldn't help but look at his own hands. Although Hong Tailong couldn't remember clearly, and had only vaguely summarized it, he had heard of the legend of Niwa creating humans from clay in his previous life. There was indeed such a legend. In other words, Niwa might really be proficient in the 5 elemental mystic arts. Conversely, the legend of Niwa creating humans in his previous life was very likely real. It wasn't just an illusory legend. Using the same logic, it meant that as long as he cultivated all the 5 elemental mystic arts, he would be able to create living humans. What kind of mystic art would that be? Niwa mending the heavens? Yu Qianqiu's eyes flickered as he raised his head to look at the void. Since it was true that Niwa created humans, then it was very likely that Niwa mending the heavens was also true. However, how could this illusory sky be broken? Just as he was thinking about it aimlessly, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind, causing his body to tremble. If it was in his previous life, he definitely wouldn't be able to figure out how the illusory sky could be broken. However, he had found the reason now. The so-called breaking of the sky could be understood as an opening in the sky. It was very likely that the passageway between the 2 realms, or someone with high cultivation, had directly torn open the void. As for the so-called Niwa refining the 5-colored divine stone to mend the heavens, it was because of the 5-colored light that shone when she took out the 5 elemental mystic arts. This caused people to misunderstand that she had actually used the 5 elemental mystic arts to seal the passageway between the 2 realms. This reason was the most perfect answer. If it was said that the legend of Hou-Yi still made Yu Qianqiu uncertain about anything, now the matter of Niwa completely matched the legend of his previous life. In other words, the time and space that Tao sent Niwa to was actually the time and space that he had been in his previous life. Similarly, it meant that it was completely possible for him to return to the time and space that belonged to him, provided that his cultivation had reached a certain level. The blood in Yu Qianqiu's heart was instantly boiling. No matter how glorious he was in this world, there was always a sense of estrangement. He was born to be incompatible with this world. Even though he knew that there was no hope of returning, his heart was still haunted by the world that he had been in his previous life. The sense of belonging to the Chinese people in his previous life had always been deeply buried in his heart. That was the destiny of his soul. But today, on this very day, he suddenly found a way to return to his previous life. Even though this method was extremely uncertain to him at the moment, he was full of ambition. He firmly believed that there was no difficulty that could stop him from returning. The strong sense of belonging filled him with hope for his future. Even if the future was filled with thorns and obstacles, he would never take a step back. From the first day he came to this world until now, this was the first time he had such a clear and impartial goal: to return home. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Hong Tailong nudged the bewitched Yu Qianqiu awake. With a face full of suspicion, he asked, "Tell me honestly, why are you so interested in the matters of the demon goddess Niwa?" Yu Qianqiu looked at Hong Tailong, his eyes almost brimming with tears. He opened his arms and hugged Hong Tailong tightly. He patted his back forcefully and said, "This trip is worth it. It's King worth it. Hong Tailong." Yu Qianqiu, thank you." Chapter 12:11. "No." Hong Tailong pushed him away, looked at him from head to toe, then shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Definitely not. Kid, you must be hiding something. Tell me honestly, what the hell are you doing?" Yu Qianqiu put on a serious look and said seriously, "It's about the great task of punishing on behalf of the coiling dragon god. So I can't tell you." "You." Hong Tailong popped out his eyes, swung his sleeves, and became speechless. Hee. "Let's go. Let's keep moving. When we have a chance, I'll treat you to a cigarette, and you'll understand." Yu Qianqiu happily kept flying forward, his heart filled with endless longing. Dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. "Smoke." Hong Tailong followed Ji Hao with confusion, asking him what he meant by smoke. Nowadays, the river Styx wasn't peaceful. Back then, Bai Qi and Jin Tai dared not to attack the aquatic creatures of the river Styx because of the Netherworld Divine Palace, but the army of Devil didn't care about that. They were worried that they couldn't find a suitable opportunity to attack the Netherworld Divine Palace. And so, the aquatic creatures of the river Styx suffered. After settling the Netherworld warriors on land, a few Devil Kings were sent to lead the army of Devil to wipe out the aquatic creatures along the river Styx. Any aquatic creature that dared not to surrender was exterminated. As for those who had surrendered, they were forced to be the vanguard of the army of the Devil League. In the end, almost all of the water clan of the Netherworld River that had surrendered were driven to the widest area of the Netherworld River Basin, and the Netherworld Divine Palace was surrounded inside and outside. Yu Qianqiu and Hong Tailong were heading to the Netherworld Divine Palace, so it was inevitable that they would run into them. In the widest area of the river Styx, a small island stood in the middle. On the island, fires were sparkling, and there were delicacies and wine, as well as beautiful dancers and dancers. Evil Spirit and Snake Xiu, the two Devil Kings, had their arms around the beautiful girls on both sides. Sitting below them, their subordinates were raising their glasses and drinking. Some of them were even doing lustful things in front of the crowd. The entire island was suffused with a lustful atmosphere. The beautiful women serving on this island were all good-looking ones from the aquatic creatures of the river Styx, such as Li Li, the third princess of Li Palace. At the moment, Snake Xiu was holding her in his arms, groping her from head to toe, and even offering her wine with a forced smile on her face. She couldn't do anything about it. The lives of her parents and the people of Li Palace were all in Snake Xiu's hands. If Snake Xiu didn't satisfy her, a black carp would be slaughtered, carried to the island, roasted and shared. While drinking, Snake Xiu raised his cup to Evil Spirit, who was sitting on the opposite side, then drained the cup with one gulp. Next, Snake Xiao held Li Li in his arms and rolled on the bed. More or less, Li Li still cared about her sense of shame. When her clothes were taken off by Snake Xiao, she didn't forget to put down the veil hanging on the bed. He was just trying to deceive himself. What could a layer of gauze do to the cultivators outside? Not to mention, it was illuminated by the flames. When the people outside saw the overflowing scene inside, they all burst into laughter and went about their own business. Great Demon King Chi Mei didn't back down either. He directly dragged two aquatic beauties to the bed and enjoyed himself to the fullest. At this moment, Hong Tailong's laughter could be heard from the sky. These evil people are indeed having a good time. People on the island raised their heads and looked at the sky. Demon and Snake Xiao directly pulled down the black carp and shouted at the sky, "Who's there?" At the moment, Yu Qianqiu stood in the air with his hands held behind his body sneering. The first people he paid attention to were surely the two people who were qualified to sit on the bed. With his current power, he wouldn't put them in his eyes at all. However, he paused as soon as he glanced around, because he saw Li Li, who was still under Snake Xiao's body and had her breasts exposed. They were old acquaintances, so Li Li surely knew him. Seeing him, she paused as well. Lying on the bed, she turned her face away in shame. Even in his dreams, Yu Qianqiu had never imagined that the lofty and virtuous third princess of Li Palace would actually do such a thing in such an occasion. He had thought that he had seen wrongly. After all, there were people who looked similar, and the other party had also taken off her clothes. However, the other party's reaction immediately made him understand that the woman who was having fun under the crotch of a devil was really the third princess of Li Palace, Li Li. Yu Qianqiu sighed slightly in his head. He roughly guessed that Devil Dao had been running rampant in the three worlds, and that she was probably forced to do this. But as a former princess, she had fallen to such a state, which made people sigh with emotion. Down below, Demon and Snake Xiao had already swiftly put on their clothes and dashed up. Yu Qianqiu conveniently threw out a pair of divine swords. As a late-stage divine god, dealing with two middle-stage small god devil kings was as easy as blowing off dust. Two beams of golden light flashed as fast as lightning bolts. Before the two devil kings could say a word, they burst into shrill screams and were chopped into a rain of blood. The alarm was sent out. Immediately, countless devil armies and water-kind creatures surged out of the Nether River. However, seeing the two devil kings being killed so easily, they immediately realized that a powerful being was coming. Therefore, none of them dared to make any reckless moves. Yu Qianqiu glanced at Li Li, who had hurriedly put on her clothes, then turned around, looked at Hong Tailong and said, "Is the Netherworld Divine Palace down there?" "Indeed. Why don't we slaughter these bastards first?" Hong Tailong said as he rubbed his palms together. However, Yu Qianqiu had already teleported down to the island. Glancing at Li Li, who was wearing a sexy and revealing outfit, Yu Qianqiu thought for a while, and decided to pretend that he didn't know her. He turned his back to her. Hong Tailong flashed down, but didn't find anything strange. Instead he asked again, "Are we just going to let them go like this?" Yu Qianqiu raised his head and glanced at the crowd in the sky, then at Li Guang and Snake Xiao, who had also turned their heads away in shame. With a cold look in his eyes, Yu Qianqiu growled, "If you don't want to die, piss off. Anyone who stands in my way will die." Li Li looked at Yu Qianqiu, who was wearing a cyan robe, and standing with his hands clasped behind his back. She had heard about how Yu Qianqiu fought against Demon King 3 nights long ago. But she didn't know that Yu Qianqiu had already become so powerful that he could easily kill 2 devil kings. After a moment of hesitation, she sent a pleading voice transmission. "Yu Qianqiu, please save my Li Palace's water tribe. As long as you save my Li Palace's water tribe, I, Li Li, will be your slave and servant to repay you." Yu Qianqiu didn't turn his head. He only furrowed his brows and replied with a deep voice transmission. "Third princess, it's fine if you fall into depravity because of a moment of helplessness, but you mustn't abandon yourself to depravity. That will become a habit, and there's no cure for it. I, Yu Qianqiu, don't need you to be my slave or servant. It won't be long before the time to counterattack the devil path arrives. Take care of yourself." With that, he waved at Hong Tailong. and the two of them flashed into the underworld river. Lily looked at the tattered gauze on her body and bit her lips. After Hong Tailong and Yu Qianqiu dove to the bottom of the underworld river, which was several thousand meters deep, they discovered a huge gate that was glowing with fluorescent light on the mountain wall at the bottom of the river. The top of the gate was embedded with a water-repelling pearl that glowed with a gentle white light, and the words Netherworld Divine Manor were engraved on the beam below it. There were still quite a few people guarding the gate. The two of them lightly flew over, and none of the guards dared to stop them, so they all moved aside. Hong Tailong directly went forward and pushed open the gate. Immediately, he saw a white light swirling around the passage between the two worlds. The two of them flashed into it and disappeared. When the two of them reappeared in a world that was bright and beautiful with sunlight, there were quite a few meditation cultivators and blue-clothed people who immediately flashed over from both sides. They stared at them like tigers watching their prey. Among them, someone actually cried out in surprise, "Yu Qianqiu!" Yu Qianqiu had not expected that someone would recognize him the first time he stepped into the Netherworld Divine Manor. He looked at that person and realized that he did not know him. However, from his attire, he could tell that this person was from the Unrequited Love Palace. Clearly this person had seen him before. Therefore, Fang Xingjian shook his head and smiled at Hong Tailong, saying, "Looks like I didn't find the wrong place. Wang Qing and his son are really here." He then turned back and said to the person who had spoken, "Tell Wang Qing that I'm here and I want to meet him." Although these people were on guard, they did not act recklessly. Simultaneously, a meditation cultivator and a disciple of the Unrequited Love Palace left at the same time. On the other hand, Yu Qianqiu and Hong Tailong strolled forward and observed their surroundings. Not long after, over 10 streams of light arrived at the same time. Wu Feng, Wu Xiong, Wang Qing, and Madame Blackpool were all present. There were also quite a few old fellows. Yu Qianqiu paid attention to the cultivation of these old fellows and realized that they were all at the god level. The one with the highest cultivation had actually reached the mid-stage of the great god level. It could be seen that this Netherworld Divine Manor was indeed a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. The moment Wu Xiong saw Yu Qianqiu, he flew into a rage. He pointed at Yu Qianqiu and scolded, "Yu Qianqiu, how dare you come here to die?" It would have been better if he had not spoken. The moment he spoke, Yu Qianqiu thought of the dead Mu Tianjiao. Without hesitation, he raised his hand and grabbed. Wu Xiong immediately felt a strong suction force. He was sucked over like a leaf. How could a mere immortal emperor like him go against the current Yu Qianqiu? Wu Feng and the others were shocked. The mid-stage great god elder standing in the middle immediately teleported over and grabbed Wu Xiong, forcefully dragging him back. However, after this exchange his expression also changed. He realized that Yu Qianqiu's cultivation was actually higher than his. No wonder he could not see through Yu Qianqiu's cultivation. Yu Qianqiu was not here to kill, so he stopped. However, he pointed at Wu Xiong, who was still in a state of shock, and shouted, "If I want to kill you, it will be as easy as lifting a finger. These people cannot stop me. You are a despicable person who can even abandon your wife to escape. Killing you will dirty my hands. Scram to the side, there is no place for you to speak here. You are Yu Qianqiu." Wu Feng walked out. The divine wind staff in his hand lit up. He sneered and was about to speak, as if he was laughing at Yu Qianqiu for boasting and wanting to use the divine wind staff to teach him a lesson. Who knew that the mid-stage great god elder stretched out his hand to stop him? The elder shook his head and said, "You are not his match." As soon as these words were spoken, it wasn't just Wu Feng. Even Wang Qing and the others were quite shocked. They sized up Yu Qianqiu with surprise and bewilderment, and they slightly doubted whether this person was really Yu Qianqiu. Wu Feng even cried out, "Godfather, are you seeing things?" "Godfather? Damn!" Yu Qianqiu glanced at the two of them and cursed in his heart. I was wondering why Wu Feng dared to hide in the Netherworld God Manor. It turns out that he found a godfather here. The mid-stage great god elder cupped his hands and said, "This old man is Wan Tianbua. I didn't think that there would be an expert like little brother in the 3 realms." I wonder why little brother has come to the Netherworld God Manor? Chapter 12:12. Look, you guys can learn from him. Yu Qianqiu pointed at Wan Tianbo and clicked his tongue at Wu Feng and the others. Brother Wan is my brother, but you foster children and grandchildren don't even know the basic courtesy to your elders. Are your heads growing on your butts? The faces of Wu Feng and the others darkened immediately. Hong Tailong secretly laughed at the side. He found that this kid's mouth was really sharp. Wan Tianbo's face slightly stiffened, but he still squeezed out a smile and said, Brother you didn't come here just to make fun of us, did you? I'm not such a petty person. Yu Qianqiu smilingly walked over, looked Wan Tianbo up and down, and said, I heard that there is a passage leading to the Divine Realm in the Netherworld Divine Palace. Therefore, a group of experts is cultivating here, hoping to ascend to the Divine Realm through the passage. I didn't believe it before, but after seeing Brother Wan, I truly believe it. Wan Tianbo and the other old guys glanced at each other, then asked, Could it be that Brother you also came to the Netherworld Divine Palace to look for the passage to the Divine Realm? Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes at him, then patted his chest and said shamelessly, If I want to go to the Divine Realm, I can open the passage to the Divine Realm at any time. Do I still need to look for it? While everyone was trying to figure out what he meant, Yu Qianqiu pointed at Hong Tailong and said, He is from the Dragon Clan in the Divine Realm. This Netherworld Divine Palace was created by their old ancestor Coiling Dragon. With him here, I can ask for his help at any time if I want to go to the Divine Realm. Hong Tailong, show them what you can do. Hong Tailong didn't know what he was up to, but he still raised his head and roared towards the sky. Then, he leaped up into the air and directly showed his true form of a fiery red dragon. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he soared into the sky. From time to time, he would roar majestically, stunning the group of people who were watching. When Hong Tailong transformed back into his human form and landed beside Yu Qianqiu, the group of people finally recovered from their shock. Wan Tianbo even led a group of old guys and saluted to Hong Tailong. So it really is the envoy of the Dragon Clan. We didn't pay attention just now, please forgive us, envoy. Hong Tailong? After Wu Feng muttered to himself, he suddenly pointed at Hong Tailong in shock and said, You are the divine dragon that the Myriad Swords demon monarch used to ride. Aren't you already dead? When Hong Tailong heard this, he immediately blew his beard and glared. Bah! Who's his mount? You're the one who died. Yu Qianqiu immediately came out to smooth things over. Haha, it's all a misunderstanding. Back then, he sneaked down from the immortal world to the lower realm to have fun. He accidentally bumped into the Myriad Swords demon monarch and stirred up trouble together. In the end, he was discovered by Patriarch Coiling Dragon and brought back to the immortal world. Hearing this, everyone nodded, revealing an understanding expression. Hong Tailong rolled his eyes and did not expose him. After all, it was not nice to say that he had been trapped for 100,000 years. Wan Tianbo cupped his hands towards Hong Tailong and said, Could it be that Dragon Envoy has come to the Netherworld God Manor to return to the Divine Realm? The others also perked up their ears. They harbored the same thoughts as Wan Tianbo, preparing to follow Hong Tailong to see where the passageway to the Divine Realm was. Unexpectedly, Yu Qianqiu took over and said, Now is not the time for him to return. Right now, the demonic path is slaughtering the innocent in the three realms. He and I have received the decree of Great God Coiling Dragon. We are prepared to execute punishment on behalf of the heavens and eradicate the demonic path in one fell swoop, returning peace to the three realms. Could this be the mission of executing punishment on behalf of the heavens? Hong Tailong muttered in his heart. Although he was doubtful, on the surface he maintained a dignified and heavy N, indicating that it was indeed the case. Wan Tianbo realized that it was not convenient to communicate with Hong Tailong. Hence, he turned to the representative Yu Qianqiu and asked, Then why did the two of you come here this time? He could not help but look at Wu Feng and the others. He had long heard of Yu Qianqiu from their mouths. Now, he could not help but suspect that Yu Qianqiu had come to take revenge on them. Yu Qianqiu said righteously, The reason is very simple. I want you to assist me in completely eradicating the demonic path. When the time comes, those who have made great contributions will have the chance to ascend to the divine realm. Everyone looked at each other. The group of old fellows were overjoyed, but they also had some misgivings. Wan Tianbua said in a low voice, "It's not impossible for us to assist the envoy in eradicating the demonic path, but the demonic arts of Demon Monarch 3 Knights are not to be underestimated. Furthermore, he has the support of the demonic path's eunuch Li, who has a profound cultivation. I'm afraid we will not have the strength to do so." "You don't have to worry about that. Eunuch Li has already died by my hands. I will deal with Demon Monarch 3 Knights." Yu Qianqiu's gaze landed on Wu Feng and his family. He said in a low voice, "What you need to do is to quickly contact the heroes of the 3 realms to resist the demonic path and fight to completely eradicate them." Wu Feng and the others were naturally more than happy to have such a good thing. However, Wan Tianbua cupped his hands and said, "Can you allow us to discuss this further? Also, there are dozens of experts scattered throughout the Netherworld God Manor. If we can obtain their help, it will be a great help." Yu Qianqiu had originally planned on persuading Wu Feng and the others to help, but he had not expected so many experts to come to help. He naturally did not mind the number of people and immediately agreed. "All right, give me a reply as soon as possible." Of course, Wan Tianbua revealed a joyful expression and made an inviting gesture behind him. "Envoys, why don't you come rest in my humble abode? I will inform you as soon as I have a reply." Yu Qianqiu nodded in agreement. After all, he also wanted to see what the Netherworld God Manor was like. Therefore, under the protection of a group of people, they went to a tall mountain 100 miles away. The pavilion on the mountain peak was covered with clouds and mist, like a fairyland. It was Wan Tianbua's abode. After arranging a room for the 2 to rest, Wan Tianbua and the others hurriedly went to contact people everywhere. However, Madame Blackpool took the initiative to serve the guests. She wanted to rely on her beauty to climb up the ladder of the immortal realm, and Yu Qianqiu had heard of her reputation for a long time. He knew that she used to be the favorite concubine of the Emperor of the Underworld by Qi, so he pulled Hong Tailong to lie on the bed side by side, enjoying her massage. Madame Blackpool did not expect the 2 to be indifferent to her seduction, and only let her do this. As a result, her hands became weak from the massage. It was only when the 2 wanted to look around the Netherworld God Manor that they finally let her go. Madame Blackpool then found a chance to run away. The area of the Netherworld God Manor was not large. In general, there was nothing special about it. It could only be said to be an excellent quiet place for cultivation. As for Yu Qianqiu and Hong Tailong, they did not come to see the scenery. Their real purpose was to find out where the passage to the immortal realm was. With their cultivation, they spent 2 days wandering around, but they still could not find the passage to the immortal realm. They even wandered around the Coiling Dragon mountain range, which was like a crouching tiger or a coiling dragon. This was the place where the coiling dragon god cultivated in the past, but they still could not find it. After the 2 returned to Wan Tianbua's abode dejectedly, Wan Tianbua brought them the conclusion of their discussion. He said that he had contacted all parties, and they agreed to help the 2 messengers eradicate the demonic path in one fell swoop. They would gather here tomorrow. Yu Qianqiu expressed his admiration for this. Late at night, the 2 lay side by side on the roof and looked at the stars. They set up a soundproof enchantment and chatted idly. "Hong Tailong, are you sure that the passage to the immortal realm left by the coiling dragon god is in the Netherworld God Manor? This shouldn't be wrong, right?" Listening to his tone, even Hong Tailong himself was a little doubtful. He thought about it and said, "When I came to the lower realm, someone told me that if I want to return to the immortal realm, I can open the passage to the immortal realm in the Netherworld God Manor. That passage can only be opened by the secret method of the Dragon Clan. So as long as I get close to the passage, I will be able to feel his presence. But I've wandered around everywhere, and I really can't feel anything." "That's strange." Yu Qianqiu lay there and twisted his neck. He looked at the stars in the night sky and said, "There's nothing on the ground, so it can't be in the sky." As he said that, he paused and the 2 of them looked at each other. It was an unintentional remark, But the two of them suddenly sat up and said in unison, "In the sky." Suddenly the two of them got excited. Yu Qianqiu nodded repeatedly to confirm his guess. But then he frowned and said, "Even if it's in the sky, there's not even a coordinate in this illusory sky. I'm afraid it'll be troublesome to search everywhere." "There's no need to search everywhere. I've guessed where it is." Hong Tailong waved his hand happily and whispered into his ear, "Old ancestor Coiling Dragon will definitely not open the passage aimlessly. If I'm not wrong, the passage is above the Mount Coiling Dragon that we've searched before. It's just that we didn't think of looking up at the top at that time." "That's not right." Yu Qianqiu shook his head and said doubtfully, "When those fellows in the Netherworld God Manor search for the passage to the immortal realm, the first place they would choose is the Mount Coiling Dragon, where the great god Coiling Dragon cultivated. I'm afraid that place has already been searched thoroughly by them." Hong Tailong laughed and said, "Hee hee, you don't know this. Even if the unopened passage is placed in front of them, they might not be able to find it. This passage is specially opened for our dragon clan, and it leads directly to the divine dragon mountain in the immortal realm. How can it be easily entered and exited by outsiders? Since you're so confident, we'll look again after we settle the matter here." Yu Qianqiu's tone was still somewhat doubtful. The next day, the experts in the Netherworld God Manor gathered. There were actually more than 60 experts above the minor god level, and 4 of them were great gods. Wan Tianbu's cultivation was the highest. Everyone came to pay their respects to the Dragon Clan envoy. Yu Qianqiu paid close attention and thought to himself, no wonder the Wind God staff would fall into Wu Feng's hands. After a simple exchange of greetings, Yu Qianqiu found out that many of these people had fought against the demonic path before the demonic world was sealed. It was also because of their existence that the demonic path did not completely unify the 3 realms back then. It was just that no one was a match for Demon Monarch 3 Knights' demonic arts. Everyone was filled with ambition as they set off to the Netherworld to slay the demons. Who knew that when they arrived at the exit of the Netherworld God Manor, the exit had actually been sealed from the outside. In other words, everyone was sealed inside. Who's so daring to seal the Netherworld God Manor created by great god Coiling Dragon? Wan Tianbo roared, and the others also stood at the exit and cursed. Yu Qianqiu thought to himself, great god Coiling Dragon is nothing. You probably don't know that Mo Shun is currently the #1 expert in the immortal realm. Someone even dared to seal the demonic world created by the #1 expert in the immortal realm, let alone great god Coiling Dragons. However, Yu Qianqiu naturally wouldn't reveal Mo Shun's awesome identity in the immortal realm. He was mainly afraid that it would scare everyone away from slaying the demons. It should be known that these people wholeheartedly wanted to mingle in the immortal realm, and had always longed for the beauty of the immortal realm. If they really knew how powerful Mo Shun was, who would dare to offend the #1 expert in the immortal realm? Chapter 12-13. Other than Demon King 3 Knights, I reckon no one else would do this, Yu Qianqiu said to everyone as he stood beside Wan Tianbo. He reckoned that Demon King 3 Knights had done this after hearing that he had barged into the Netherworld divine residence. He really didn't learn from his mistakes. Was this useful? Everyone thought about it and agreed. Wan Tianbo asked, with the divine residence sealed, how are we going to exterminate the demonic Dao? Insignificant tricks can't stop me. Yu Qianqiu flashed to an empty space at the side. He used the earth art and slowly raised his arms. A messy formation immediately appeared on the empty space. He probably didn't even know what formation it was, but he was shamelessly calling everyone into the formation. Everyone walked in carefully, not knowing what was going on. They closed their eyes according to his instructions, and immediately felt their surroundings change. Suddenly, they realized that they were in ice-cold water. Everyone couldn't help but open their eyes in shock. In the end, they discovered that they were in the Netherworld River. They all praised how amazing it was. After everyone floated to the surface, Yu Qianqiu pointed into the distance and said, I believe everyone is familiar with this place. That is the entrance to the Netherworld Divine Residence. Let's go see what's going on. The group immediately flew over. Before they even got close to the island, some people started to obstruct them. There were demonic Dao, meditation cultivators, and the Netherworld River's water race. However, how could they be a match for these people? There was almost no effect in obstructing them. However, at this moment, bolts of lightning suddenly appeared in the pitch-black night sky. It was abnormally strange in this endless darkness. As thunder rarely appeared in the Netherworld realm, it immediately raised everyone's vigilance. After careful observation, they discovered that there were dark clouds surging within the lightning. Following that, heart-palpitating gales were created, causing the waves in the Netherworld River to surge into the sky. What a heavy demonic chi! Wan Tianbua's pupils contracted. He looked at the shocked people around him and said, "It seems like Demon King Three Knights has come personally." Suddenly, a phosphorescent light shot into the sky in the distance. In an instant, a green sea of fire spread out in all directions like a blanket. In the blink of an eye, the surging clouds in the sky were all burned into a green sea of fire. The world was covered in a horrifying shade of green, and the raging Netherworld River below was also dyed a reflective green. Wu Feng and the others looked at each other. They were sure that Demon King Three Knights had arrived, because they had already seen Demon King Three Knights move back in the immortal world. It could be said that they still had lingering fears. Yu Qianqiu. He did not see the Demon Lord of the Three Knights, but he could hear his voice reverberating through the air. As expected, a mere seal is indeed unable to stop you. Have you invited all those cowards from the Netherworld Divine Palace? Good. This monarch has been waiting for a long time. Today, this monarch will let loose and have a decisive battle with all of you. And from now on, I'll completely pacify the three realms. The arrogance in his words was unbridled. Yu Qianqiu snorted coldly and beckoned to the crowd. I'll deal with Sanyi. I'll leave the rest to you guys. Let's go. The group quickly flew away and stopped about 1,000 meters away from the island. In the sky above the island, there was a ball of blood-red light shining. Within that ball of light, Demon King Three Knights stood with his arms crossed. The scarlet cloak behind him flapped up and down like a curtain of blood. The ball of blood-red light that enveloped Sanyi was refracted from it. Dense black demonic energy faintly seeped out of the cloak, entangling into the shape of demonic dragons that danced around the blood-red light. Before they even got close, they could already feel the breathtaking demonic energy from Demon King Three Knights' body. Even Yu Qianqiu, who was now a late-stage great god, felt somewhat affected. Yu Qianqiu narrowed his eyes and stared at the scarlet cloak on Sanyi's shoulders that was filled with a terrifying aura. He felt that something was wrong. He had seen Sanyi's cloak before, and it did not give off such a powerful pressure. The world was green, and Demon King Three Knights' body was wrapped in blood-red light and shrouded in black demonic energy, making him look unique. Behind Sanyi were 12 great demon kings lined up in a row, glaring like tigers watching their prey. Behind them were countless figures, including the demonic Dao army, underworld cultivators, and the river Styx's water race. Just from this aura, even Wan Tianbua and the other old fellows felt somewhat apprehensive. At this moment, a black crescent suddenly flashed out from the cloak on Sanyi's back. It floated in front of Sanyi and swayed faintly. Demon Blade. Yu Qianqiu's pupils constricted. He was too familiar with that thing. The demonic blade that had been taken away by the demonic god was now in the hands of the demon monarch Three Knights. Even an idiot could guess what was going on. He gritted his teeth and said, "No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. It turns out that the demonic god is helping you from behind." He could faintly guess the origins of that cloak. It might have been given to Sanyi by demon god, but he didn't know what kind of powerful treasure it was. For a moment he didn't dare to act rashly. Demon King Three Knights coldly snorted, then slightly tilted his head and ordered, "Tuanhai Xiang Rong, I'll leave the water to you." "Yes." The two immediately led their tens of thousands of subordinates into the river Styx. Demon King Three Knights once again ordered in a cadence, "All underworld cultivators and river Styx's water race, immediately attack. Anyone who hesitates will be killed. Everyone else, surround them. Don't let them escape." With his order, the hundreds of thousands of underworld cultivators and river Styx's water race were immediately forced to swarm forward, circling left and right to surround Yu Qianqiu and the others. The demonic Dao army, under the leadership of the remaining 10 demon kings, quickly formed an even larger encirclement. Only Demon King 3 knights floated in the air unmoving. Yu Qianqiu's gaze swept left and right, finding Li Palace's third princess Li Li and the others in the crowd. He immediately pointed at Demon King 3 knights and gritted his teeth. Sanyi, you're sending them to their deaths. Sanya's answer was practical action. He raised one arm to the sky, and green flames surged in the sky. Large masses of green fire immediately poured down. To the deity-level experts like Yu Qianqiu and the others, these things couldn't harm them at all. However, the hundreds of thousands of underworld cultivators and the river Styx's water race immediately cried out in alarm, screaming as they scattered in all directions. However, when the green flames fell into the water, they actually didn't go out. Instead, they floated in the water, absorbing the water like oil and increasing the intensity of the fire. Some people tried to break through the sea of flames on the surface of the water, but they were immediately killed by the people hiding in the water. In addition, these things were very difficult to extinguish once they came into contact with them. As a result, most of the people began to flee in all directions. The demonic Dao army's huge encirclement immediately began to take effect. Anyone who tried to escape was immediately killed by them, forcing them to return and fight with Yu Qianqiu and the others. Bastard! Yu Qianqiu spat. He spun his arms and used a water art, preparing to help everyone open a path through the river Styx. However, he didn't expect that Demon King 3 knights, who had been staring at him like a tiger watching its prey, would immediately find a chance to attack. Taking advantage of the instant Yu Qianqiu made a move, Devil Monarch 3 knights, who was wrapped in red light, teleported and shouted, "Devil Fist!" Yu Qianqiu was shocked and had no choice but to give up on saving everyone. He directly punched out. Bang! A powerful shockwave formed a huge ball that exploded in the sky. For a moment, countless people were affected, and even Wan Tianbua and the others quickly dodged. Fire and water mixed together on the surface of the river Styx, and screams filled the air. Yu Qianqiu and Demon King 3 knights were simultaneously sent flying 1,000 meters away. This exchange gave the two a huge shock. Demon King 3 knights didn't expect Yu Qianqiu's cultivation to increase again in such a short period of time. Yu Qianqiu's cultivation was actually a level higher than his. If not for the extraordinary power of the heavenly demon fist, even if he didn't die, he would have been heavily injured. Yu Qianqiu, who only dared to exchange blows with Demon King 3 knights because of the sudden increase in his cultivation, also didn't expect the heavenly demon fist to be so powerful. At this moment, his entire body was in a state of numbness, and a strange, complicated force was rampaging through his body. Wan Tianbua, what are you waiting for? Yu Qianqiu shouted angrily. Hong Tai Long was the first to respond and charge out. Wan Tianbua and the others, who had reacted, immediately charged out in all directions. The meditation cultivators who were treated as cannon fodder immediately charged with all their might. Which side was the enemy and which side was the friend? Reality had already told them that if they didn't resist, only death awaited them. For a moment, the sounds of killing shook the sky. Demon King 3 knights naturally knew what would happen to those who were hit by his heavenly demon fist. How could he give Yu Qianqiu the chance to resolve the destructive force in his body? He arrived in the blink of an eye with a red beam of light. Yu Qianqiu shouted angrily, "Die!" Although his body was temporarily unable to retaliate, the 80 Earth Soul Mystic Soldiers, 10 Gold Soul Mystic Soldiers, and 2 Fire Soul Mystic Soldiers that he had prepared in Utopia were immediately summoned. 2 Fire Soul Mystic Soldiers were left to protect the main body, while the other 90 immediately pounced on the attacking Demon King 3 knights. Yu Qianqiu was determined not to run. If he, a late-stage great god, was defeated by a mid-stage great god, he wouldn't be able to show his face in the future. Therefore, he took the opportunity to quickly circulate his energy to resolve the strange force in his body. All of a sudden, so many monsters appeared, and all of them had extraordinary cultivation. Demon King 3 knights, who had just rushed over, jumped in fright. Seeing that he was surrounded by so many experts, he shouted, "Rise!" The blood-red cloak behind him fluttered around his body, fluttering like a phantom. It was as if a bloody light was shooting out in all directions, and there was even a demonic dragon supporting him. In an instant, it blocked over 100 powerful attacks for him, and it continued to defend him from the violent attacks coming from all directions. Yu Qianqiu's teeth ached when he saw this. The demon god had clearly given 3 knights a super protective talisman. Although the cultivation of these mystic soldiers was not bad, their attack methods were very simple. Most of them relied on brute force, and their reactions were indeed much worse than a real person's. It was clearly impossible for them to break through this defense. Demon Blade! 3 knights let out another loud shout, and a huge crescent moon suddenly appeared in the vast green heaven and earth. There was a terrifying baleful aura lingering around it, and it instantly flashed and circled around 3 knights' body. It actually destroyed all 90 profound weapons in an instant. Dust and gold powder filled the sky, and 90 beads fell into the Netherworld River. In his hands, the power of the demon blade was many times stronger than in Yan Juexing's hands. Chapter 12:14. Breaking through the encirclement in one fell swoop. 3 knights pointed with his finger. The demonic blade carried an unparalleled baleful aura, as it slashed towards Yu Qianqiu with the power to split the heavens and split the earth. Yu Qianqiu had yet to completely dissolve the dark force in his body, so he was temporarily unable to move. However, being able to survive until today from a lowly tramp meant that he was no pushover. A golden light appeared in front of Yu Qianqiu. The skyscraping arrow shot out like a shooting star, sending the demonic blade flying with a boom. When comparing the 2 divine weapons, it was clear that the skyscraping arrow was superior. In addition, Yu Qianqiu's cultivation was higher than Demon King 3 knights. When it came to divine weapons, the skyscraping arrow was naturally not at a disadvantage. After defeating the opponent's sharpness in one move, the skyscraping arrow immediately shot towards 3 knights. Demon King 3 knights was shocked by the power of the divine arrow. He casually pulled on the blood-red cloak behind him, immediately wrapping it around his body. The divine arrow arrived in an instant, shooting out in a chaotic manner. Demon King 3 knights had no intention of retreating. Under the blood-red cloak, his body was as slippery as a mudfish, twisting and turning like water. Every time the divine sword brushed past him, it was unable to touch him. The battle around him became even more intense. Even Demon King Tuanhai and Xiang Rong, who were hiding in the water, led their subordinates out of the water and joined the fierce battle. However, without Demon King 3 knights, and uniquely holding the line, they were no match for the 60 or so deity-level experts in the Netherworld God manner. Furthermore, with Wu Feng's divine wind staff and Wang Qing's sword-drawing style, the battle situation was unimaginably tragic. Wan Tianbua first sent a few deity-level experts to protect Madame Blackpool and Wu Xiong as they fought their way out of the encirclement. Then he began a massacre. From the very beginning, he was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. In an instant, 2 of the 12 demon kings had been killed by him. Screams and the sounds of intense fighting mixed together. The demonic path immediately fell into a disadvantageous position, facing a massacre. The demon blade that was knocked away came back and attacked Yu Qianqiu again. Yu Qianqiu knew that the 2 Fire Soul Profound soldiers protecting him were not a match for the Devil Blade. The heaven and earth splitting arrow that had failed to kill the Demon Lord 3 knights immediately flashed back, and the Devil Blade seemed to have learned its lesson. With a strange transformation, it actually tangled with the heaven and earth splitting arrow, and for a moment, it was hard to tell who would win. Demon King 3 knights took some time to look at the situation around him. Seeing that in this short amount of time, nearly half of his 12 demon kings had been lost, he immediately roared angrily, "Blood Demon Banner!" The blood-red cloak on his back immediately fell off his shoulders and shot out like a bloody rainbow. A beam of blood-colored light shot out in all directions like a blood dragon, devouring everything in its path. Wan Tianbua's cultivation was the highest, and his killing power was the strongest. He was Demon King 3 knights' must-kill target, so he was caught off guard, and was the first to bear the brunt of the Blood Demon Banner's attack. Yu Qianqiu also took some time to look. Before Wan Tianbua could break out of the restriction, he let out a miserable wail, and shrank at a visible speed. In an instant his blood was sucked dry. The blood demon banner loosened, and he turned into a pile of broken bones that fell to the ground. This was just the beginning. Wherever the blood demon banner went, nearly half of the 60 deity-level experts in the Netherworld God Manor were immediately killed. Over 30 deity-level experts had their blood sucked dry by the blood demon banner. Meanwhile, the blood demon banner's blood-colored light burst forth, and its ferocity increased. The demonic path heroes cheered and began to counterattack, while Yu Qianqiu's people immediately scattered. How could Yu Qianqiu let 3 knights continue like this? Disregarding his own safety, the 2 protectors beside him charged at 3 knights with their fire soul profound weapons. 3 knights was greatly alarmed. The Samadhi True Fire was no joke. However, the devil blade was already entangled by the divine arrow, so the blood demon banner was immediately called back to protect him. Yu Qianqiu knew that without his help, the Devil Path's group was no match for the remaining people. He immediately shouted, "Retreat!" The Devil Path's group immediately turned around and ran. Yu Qianqiu's group quickly counterattacked. However, Demon King 3 Knights did not have any intention of retreating. With the blood demon banner wrapped around his body, he carefully dealt with the 2 fire soul profound weapons and took the opportunity to approach Yu Qianqiu. At this time, Yu Qianqiu had already completely dissolved the dark energy in his body. Without the restriction of his elbow, he was not in a hurry to deal with Demon King 3 Knights. Instead, he teleported toward the retreating demonic path heroes and pushed out his palms as if they were going to set off an angry wave in the sea. He angrily shouted, "Absorbing Star Great Art!" In a split second, tens of thousands of demonic path heroes exploded into white mist, turning into dried corpses. The group of people he brought immediately rushed forward to clean up the corpses. It was impolite not to reciprocate. Yu Qianqiu was a vengeful person. In this first battle to completely eradicate the demonic path, he could not let 3 knights scare away the morale of his people. Otherwise, once everyone saw how powerful 3 knights was, who would dare to fight against the demonic path army with him in the future? Therefore, he immediately turned around and put the blame on them, telling everyone that they were not to be trifled with, and that they did not need to be afraid of them. Hi! On the other side, 3 knights angrily roared and quickly used Devil Light Sweep, breaking away from the entanglement of the 2 fire soul profound weapons. Wrapped in red light, he rushed toward Yu Qianqiu. Yu Qianqiu rushed forward without looking back. With a wave of his hand, he drew a prism behind him, and the Netherworld River immediately set off a tall blue wave, instantly turning into a thick ice wall to block. However, this was not enough to stop 3 knights. Boom! A hole appeared in the thick ice wall. Just as 3 knights rushed over, he saw a huge water dragon coiling behind Yu Qianqiu. It opened its mouth and spat out countless ice shards at him. However, it could not block 3 knights' punch, and he directly rushed over. Although Yu Qianqiu was afraid of the blood demon banner on 3 knights' body, he still needed this little bit of time. A golden light flashed, and the heaven and earth splitting arrow was summoned back. It exploded in front of Yu Qianqiu into 10,000 streams of light, and 10,000 divine swords rapidly danced around him. 3 knights, give me your life! Yu Qianqiu angrily roared, and began to rush toward Demon King 3 Knights. Demon King 3 Knights was startled, and wanted to dodge, but the 2 true Samadhi Fire profound weapons behind him were already rushing over. However, the blood demon banner, given to him by the demon god, was definitely not something to look at. It wrapped around him and slid past the 2 profound weapons like red silk, escaping the siege. The devil blade arrived just in time to receive the attack. It was like a huge millstone that stirred up the Netherworld River below. One could see the bottom of the Netherworld River. Boom! Boom! The 2 profound soldiers turned into sparks and 2 red beads fell into the Netherworld River. The true Samadhi fire on the devil blade was quickly extinguished by a layer of black and red baleful aura. Yu Qianqiu flicked his finger, and 1,000 divine swords shot out like meteors, directly defeating the demon blade. As he rushed over, he quickly collected the scattered Samadhi true fire. It would be a pity to waste it. Yu Qianqiu's body was wrapped in 7 colored flames, and he carried the divine swords as he charged at San Yi. 3 knights pulled off the cloak behind him and threw it into the sky. In an instant, it turned into a blood-colored banner that covered the sky. Like a whirlwind, it enveloped Yu Qianqiu and his sword in a boundless sea of blood. Everywhere he looked, there was a hazy blood light, and it was so piercing that it hurt one's eyes. Yu Qianqiu was secretly shocked. He waved his hand, and 10,000 divine swords shot out in all directions. Although the divine swords were sharp, they seemed to have stabbed onto cotton that was filled with a huge elasticity. They expanded the sea of blood, but they were unable to tear it apart. Yu Qianqiu immediately called back the divine swords, and they circled around him to protect him. At the same time, he secretly contacted Utopia, and when he realized that the connection wasn't severed, he immediately felt relieved. He clenched his fist and shouted, 10,000 swords is one break. The 10,000 divine swords immediately merged into one and shot out rapidly. Unexpectedly, a bloody mouth immediately opened up in the sea of blood and swallowed the divine swords. Behind Yu Qianqiu, another bloody mouth opened up and spat out a beam of golden light. Yu Qianqiu suddenly turned around and was shocked. He realized that the divine arrows that he had shot out in front of him had been spat out from behind him. He was a little confused. He was naturally unwilling to accept this. The divine arrows darted around randomly, but they couldn't hurt the sea of blood at all. Often when he shot out from the front, the divine arrows would come out from the back. When he shot out from the top, they would come out from the bottom. When he shot out from the left, they would come out from the right. It was extremely unbelievable. After his futile efforts, he shook his shoulder, and the true samadhi fire on his body immediately shot out a ball. In the end, it was also swallowed by the sea of blood, and it was spat out from the other side. He wanted to use the true samadhi fire to destroy the sea of blood, but he didn't have the chance to touch him. Haha! Demon King 3 Knights laughed crazily. He surged out from the sea of blood and looked at Yu Qianqiu with his arms crossed. He sneered and said, "This is the endless sea of blood in the blood demon banner. It is a space of its own. This world is my world. You can forget about escaping." Tui, do I need to escape to deal with you? Yu Qianqiu didn't say anything else. The divine arrows shot out, but Demon King 3 Knights silently hid within. As expected, the divine arrows came out from behind him. Demon King 3 Knights' laughter rang out in the space of the sea of blood again. I think you should just tuck your tail between your legs and admit defeat. Otherwise, don't blame my blood demon banner for being merciless. I will refine you into a drop of essence blood in this sea of blood. Don't give me that. Provocation is useless against this daddy. This daddy's words are like a nail. If I say I won't escape, I won't escape. Yu Qianqiu spat as he looked left and right, trying to think of a way to break out of this. Fine, then let's see if you have the guts. Demon King 3 Knights laughed cruelly. The sea of blood in all directions immediately trembled. It was as if countless blood skeletons had opened their bloody mouths at Yu Qianqiu. The screams of countless vengeful ghosts were ear-piercing. Yu Qianqiu immediately knew something was wrong. The blood in his body boiled, and even his cultivation showed signs of leaking out. He tried his best to suppress it, but he couldn't hold it back anymore. His face turned red. He thought to himself, this daddy didn't lose to Demon King 3 Knights, but to a demon god. Since I can't beat a demon god, it's not wrong to run. Yu Qianqiu had just found an excuse to comfort himself by running away when the nascent soul in his dantian, which had been implicated, suddenly erupted with a dazzling golden light. Even Yu Qianqiu's body was covered with a faint layer of golden light. The bloody skulls in the surrounding blood sea immediately let out countless miserable screams, as if they were ghosts that had been trapped in the netherworld for a long time, and had finally seen the sun. The powerful suction force was immediately dispelled. Yu Qianqiu was overjoyed. This star bead was indeed miraculous. Thus, he gave up on the idea of escaping, and prepared to think of another way to break this blood demon banner. Demon King 3 Knights' voice came from the sea of blood. What's going on? Chapter 12:15. He didn't seem to understand why the blood devil banner didn't have any effect on Yu Qianqiu. He tried to use it a few times, but he found that it was trembling, as if it had met its nemesis. Yu Qianqiu cackled and pointed at the sea of blood. Sanyi, Grandpa is here. Do you dare come out and fight to the death? Sanyi didn't pay attention to him. He was trying to figure out what was wrong with the Blood Devil banner. Pa, the supreme of the devil world is actually a coward. Yu Qianqiu spat. Suddenly, his eyes turned as if he thought of something. He threw the divine arrow in his hand, and it once again exploded into countless rays of light that shot in all directions. Just like before, it expanded the entire sea of blood, but it was unable to break it. However, it confirmed his guess that the power of the myriad swords as one arrow could break the sea of blood, which was why the sea of blood avoided it. But this sea of blood wasn't so miraculous that it was flawless. When attacked from all directions, it couldn't produce the miraculous effect of Samadhi true fire. And from the fact that the sea of blood avoided the Samadhi true fire, it could be seen that the true fire that could refine anything could restrain it. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up, and he called back the 10,000 divine swords at the same time. They circled around him, and the Samadhi true fire attached to each divine sword. He waved his arm and shouted, "Break!" The divine swords with the 7 colored flames once again shot out in all directions. As expected, the sea of blood was once again opened. The Samadhi true fire attached to the swords quickly stuck to the blood wall. The blood curtain in all directions immediately blossomed with brilliant fireworks. The 7 colored flames burned fiercely and spread. Black smoke filled the air, and the wails of countless ghosts from the netherworld resounded within the sea of blood. Seeing that it was effective, Yu Qianqiu laughed. Sanyi, I'll let you see how I refine the treasure the devil god gave you. Ha! Come out and accept your death, and I'll give you a quick death. Bullshit! Demon King 3 Knights cursed angrily, and the smoky and fiery blood sea space suddenly disappeared. The blood demon banner was put away, and Yu Qianqiu saw the sky of the underworld and the underworld river below. What was even more interesting was that Demon King 3 Knights was swinging his blood demon banner around, as if he wanted to extinguish the true Samadhi fire attached to it. However, when the blood sea space closed, all of the true Samadhi fire immediately ignited the entire cloak. Even if 3 Knights was playing with fire, he did not dare to touch the true Samadhi fire. 10,000 specks of golden light shot out from the cloak. He had no choice but to throw away the blood demon banner and watch as this treasure fell into the river Styx. With a clang, the magic blade blocked the attack of the divine sword for him, allowing him to teleport away from the concentrated attacks. The moment Yu Qianqiu came out, he pounced over without hesitation. He grabbed a divine sword in each hand, and 1,000 divine swords followed him to attack Sanyi. The other divine swords trapped the devil blade, and the battle in the underworld was earth-shattering. Don't run. Stop right there. Yu Qianqiu's savage voice resounded in all directions. He chased after Sanyi relentlessly, cursing non-stop. However, he had divine weapons and Sanyi was bare-handed. How could he dare to fight him head-on? He could only run away. Even though Yu Qianqiu's cultivation was higher than his, the flying speed of his magic ray glimpse was indeed astonishing. Although he had to use it constantly, he would use it again after running for a distance, and seeing that Yu Qianqiu was about to catch up. The two of them circled around the underworld one after the other. One was relentlessly chasing, and the other was reluctant to let go of the devil blade. He wanted to circle back and snatch the devil blade before fighting again. The remaining experts of the Netherworld Divine Office, who were chasing after the demonic cultivators, led a group of Netherworld cultivators back. They did not dare to split up to chase after the fleeing demonic cultivators, afraid that they would be ambushed. When they returned and saw that Yu Qianqiu was chasing Demon King 3 Knights everywhere, not only did their morale soar, but they were also in an uproar. They never thought that the Demon King 3 Knights, whose name shook the 3 realms, would end up in such a state. Haha, this kid is killing to his heart's content. Hong Tailong excitedly rubbed his palms together when he saw this scene. He had the urge to run and join the battle, but he also knew that the difference in strength between him and Demon King 3 Knights was too great. Running was no different from throwing his life away. The others did not dare to easily join the battle between experts of this level. Li Li, who was lucky to survive, had a bitter expression when she saw this scene. She had originally wanted to kill Yu Qianqiu to avenge her brother, but now it seemed that it was a huge joke. Moreover, she now knew that she was no longer the high and mighty third princess. She was a withered willow that others were unwilling to meet directly. She still remembered the scene of Yu Qianqiu talking to her with his back facing her. Actually, Yu Qianqiu did not want her to feel awkward. He understood that she was forced into a corner and felt pity for her. However, she still thought that way. Sanyi, run your ancestor. Don't run if you have the guts. Yu Qianqiu could not catch up to him, and could not do anything to him. He shouted angrily, "Nonsense! You don't even have the qualifications to catch up to this lord." "What qualifications do you have to fight this lord?" Sanyi sneered as he ran. As expected, he was not to be trifled with. F***ck. You win. Yu Qianqiu stopped with a whoosh. He knew that continuing to chase like this was not a solution. He straightforwardly said, "This old man will return the devil blade to you. I'll let you fight freely with this old man. Don't F***king do such a shameful thing again." Countless golden lights were summoned back, and the devil blade immediately flashed back into Demon King Three Knight's hand. Holding the devil blade, Sanyi was stunned. He quickly glanced at the depths of the Netherworld River that was flickering with rainbow light. There were still muffled screams of malicious spirits. He also knew that the true Samadhi fire was not afraid of water. Clearly, he was still refining his blood demon banner. While his heart ached, he also knew that the devil blade alone would not be able to defeat Yu Qianqiu's heaven and earth splitting arrow. He could only leave first, and think of a way to contact Lord Demon God of the Immortal Realm for help. Thus, he gritted his teeth, and executed the demonic light glimpse to its limit. With a whoosh, he disappeared from everyone's sight, and directly flew towards the passageway that led to the Immortal Realm from the Netherworld. Instantly Yu Qianqiu cursed, "Despicable shameless coward." After he finished cursing he sneered. With a flash, he arrived at the bottom of the Netherworld River, and quickly collected the 92 soldier souls that he had knocked down. Then, he used the true Samadhi fire to completely refine the blood demon banner into ashes. Only then did he put away the true Samadhi fire. After emerging from the bottom of the Netherworld River, everyone flew over to look at him. Everyone's intentions were very clear. They were going to follow his lead in slaying demons and defending the Tao. Hong Tailong directly asked, "What do we do next? Are we going to let Sanyi run?" "Run." Yu Qianqiu sneered nonstop. Then, his expression turned serious as he pointed at Wu Feng and said, "Wu Feng and Madame He Qi, quickly contact the old subordinates of the Netherworld and all the heroes of the Netherworld to form a demonic slaying army. First, clean up the Netherworld and eliminate the demonic cultivators. Then, we will meet up with Heartless Palace and contact all the heroes of the Immortal Realm to clean up the Immortal Realm. Then we will go to the human realm. Finally, we will gather all the armies to attack the demonic realm and completely eradicate the demonic cultivators. If anyone is unwilling to contribute, then kill them. Damn it. If they don't contribute at this time, then they are demonic cultivators and cannot be left alive." He was bossing people around here and directly giving orders. Wu Feng's family didn't feel unhappy at all. Instead, they were overjoyed. After the three realms were pacified, even if they didn't take the first merit, they wouldn't be able to run away from dominating a region. Wu Feng immediately stood up. He held the wind god's staff and cupped his hands, saying, "I dare not to obey." "All right." Yu Qianqiu nodded. He looked at the remaining 30 or so deity experts in the Netherworld God Manor, and said, "Then I'll have to trouble everyone to help them for now. After this, there will be many benefits for everyone." These people naturally cupped their hands and accepted the order. It was fine as long as they didn't have to face Demon King Three Knights. Speed is crucial in war. Everyone move out immediately. I'll go kill Demon King Three Knights. After Yu Qianqiu gave the order, he called Hong Tailong, and the two of them disappeared from everyone's sight. With Yu Qianqiu's clear support, Wu Feng didn't feel the slightest bit sad about his foster father's death. He stood up and saluted everyone, then immediately began to make arrangements in an orderly manner. In front of the passageway to the netherworld, Demon King 3 Knights stood there with a gloomy expression. A group of subordinates guarded behind him. He didn't expect to be defeated even with Lord Demon God's support. Even the Blood Demon banner that Lord Demon God had given him was destroyed. His heart ached, but he knew that he couldn't blame it all on himself. Let alone him. Perhaps even Demon God didn't know that Yu Qianqiu's cultivation would grow so quickly. It was too abnormal. The morale of the demonic cultivators was low. Everyone was silent. At this moment, a few subordinates came from the immortal world and cupped their hands at Demon King 3 Knights and said, "Demon King, there is no ambush there." "All right." Demon King 3 Knights turned around and looked at his demoralized subordinates. He laughed loudly and said, "Victory and defeat are common in war. Everyone, don't be discouraged. It won't be long before we can regroup and make a comeback." Great Demon King Shenhui cupped his hands worriedly and said, "Demon King, the situation isn't good for us. I'm afraid that Yu Qianqiu and the others will immediately organize the army of the Three Realms to take revenge on us. I'm afraid we can't stay in the Three Realms any longer." Demon King 3 Knights nodded and said, "That's right. This is what I'm worried about as well. So when we reach the immortal world, immediately send an order to everyone to quickly retreat to the demon world. Then, we'll seal all the passageways to the outside world." Shen Hui immediately raised a question. That Yu Qianqiu can travel between realms at will. Will the demon world be able to stop him after we seal it? Demon King 3 Knights revealed a confident smile and said to everyone, "If it was before, I would also have this concern. But after communicating with Lord Demon God, I found out that Yu Qianqiu obtained the Star Orb, which is why he can travel between realms freely. Although Lord Demon God doesn't know much about the Star Orb, he knows of one of its flaws. Only places that Yu Qianqiu has been to can be entered again. Moreover, all the passageways to the demon world have always been guarded by our people. So, we can deduce that Yu Qianqiu hasn't entered the demon world yet. As long as we seal it from the inside, he won't be able to come in." Shen Hui didn't completely relax after hearing this answer. Instead, he reminded them again. If they also seal the demon world from the outside, then wouldn't we be trapped in a cocoon of our own making? Haha, you've thought it through, but you're worrying too much. Demon King 3 Knights said passionately to everyone. There's something I don't mind telling you. Lord Demon God has already given us a way to contact him. If we encounter any difficulties that we can't solve, we can look for him. With Lord Demon God's power, can't he open a mere seal? This time, we're returning to the demon world to avoid even greater losses. More importantly, I need to set up the Demon God communication formation and contact Lord Demon God in the God world. I need him to help us again. Do you have any other concerns? Chapter 12:16. Hearing that Lord Demon God would help them again, the gloominess in everyone's hearts was swept away. Thinking about Lord Demon God's might in the past, they all became excited. Shen Hui bowed first and said, "We are willing to follow Demon Lord to the death." The group naturally responded, and the morale of the crowd rose. Demon Lord 3 Knights, who had stabilized the army, waved his hand and said, "Return to Soldier Demon World, depart." The vanguard immediately passed through the exit of the underworld. The rest of the army brought up the rear with Demon Lord 3 Knights in the middle. The group entered the celestial world in a grandiose manner. The entrance to the underworld from the celestial world had already been destroyed when Wang Qing broke the formation left behind by Bai Qi. The spinning black light was already in the open canyon. In the mountain on the side of the canyon, two pairs of eyes stared at the Demon Dao army that had appeared at the entrance. They're out. Shall we begin?" Hong Tailong, who was hiding in the mountain, transmitted. Squatting beside him, Yu Qianqiu narrowed his eyes as he looked outside and replied, "What's the rush? The person I want to kill is Demon Lord 3 Knights. As long as I get rid of this guy, the others will be easy to deal with. I've already set up a net of 10,000 divine swords. Just wait a little longer." Before he finished speaking, Demon Lord 3 Knights rushed out from the center of the army. His eyes glowed red as he scanned the surroundings. Clearly, he was still afraid of an ambush. Yu Qianqiu's eyes widened, and the moment he opened his mouth, "Go to hell!" He blasted open the mountain with a single punch. His body flashed into the air, and his palms covered the ground below. He shouted angrily, "Absorbing Star's great art!" Yu Qianqiu, Demon Lord Three Knights, was shocked. He didn't expect the other party to really be lying in ambush here. Black devil flames quickly surged out of his body, and he used the blazing devil aura to block the Absorbing Star's great skill. However, the people around him didn't have as strong a defense as him, and they all exploded into white mist. After blocking the attack, Demon Lord Three Knights instinctively wanted to flee, but almost at the same time, the valley and the ground around him exploded with 10,000 golden lights. Instantly, the group of people were killed, and their cries were even uglier than ghosts. The three vanguard great demon kings also lost their lives under the sneak attack of the Absorbing Star's great technique and the divine sword. The devil blade flashed out of the storage bracelet on his wrist. Boom! A path was carved out. Demon King Three Knights turned into a streak of light and fled, while the devil blade covered his retreat. "Trap it for me!" Yu Qianqiu pointed angrily at the devil blade. It was always this fellow who spoiled his plans. He had to find a way to get rid of it. Tens of thousands of divine swords emitted dazzling golden light, forming a messy iron frame, firmly holding the demonic blade that was trying to break free. Yu Qianqiu's 5 fingers stretched out, instantly sending it into Utopia. The moment the struggling demon blade entered Utopia, it fell to the ground like a piece of scrap metal, completely severing its connection with Demon Lord Three Knights. Although it was still a divine weapon, it was equivalent to a divine weapon that no one could control. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up. He didn't expect his desperate action to have an unexpected effect. Demon King Three Knights, who didn't want to give up on the devil blade, and was about to use his speed to play in circles with Yu Qianqiu again, panicked. He realized that he had completely lost contact with the devil blade. No matter how he tried to summon it, there was no response. The result was that the devil blade was controlled by someone or destroyed. However, neither of these results was what he wanted to see. The 2 divine weapons that the demonic god had given him were gone after playing with them for a few days. How could he face the Lord Demonic God now? He immediately roared, "Yu Qianqiu, return my devil blade! Grandpa is here!" Yu Qianqiu laughed maniacally. Tens of thousands of divine swords danced around him as he charged straight at Three Knights. On the other side, Hong Tailong had already charged out and was engaged in a fierce battle with Shen Hui and the other 2 great demon kings, who were bringing up the rear. Although Hong Tailong could not defeat the 3 of them who had joined forces, he was able to withstand a few hits with the help of the dragon tribe's innate thick skin and flesh. For a moment, he was laughing maniacally as he fought. Seeing that Yu Qianqiu was charging at him, and that his subordinates were engaged in a fierce battle, Demon Lord Three Knights decisively roared at his subordinates, "Don't continue fighting. Quickly send a message to everyone else." Yes, Shen Hui and the others immediately fled in all directions. Hong Tailong chased after one of them relentlessly. He wasn't interested in those small fries. Demon Lord Three Knights' cultivation was inferior to Yu Qianqiu's in the first place. Now that he had lost his 2 divine weapons, how could he dare to fight against Yu Qianqiu, who had a high-grade divine weapon? Where there's life, there's hope. He gritted his teeth and fled immediately. "Three Knights, stop right there." Yu Qianqiu also chased after him relentlessly. Unfortunately, the demonic light glimpse had the advantage in speed. Even though his cultivation was higher, he still couldn't catch up. However, after being shaken off a distance, he was able to catch up again. However, Three Knights cast the demonic light glimpse again and shook him off. Just like that, the 2 of them got closer and separated and got closer again. This time, Yu Qianqiu was determined not to let go. Demon Lord Three Knights instantly panicked. His cultivation was inferior to Yu Qianqiu's, and he couldn't keep casting the demonic light glimpse. When the demonic aura in his body was almost depleted, he would be caught up sooner or later. And if this continued, Yu Qianqiu would definitely enter the demon world right after him. Then, he wouldn't have the time to seal the demon world. "Three Knights, don't you want to know the whereabouts of your son, Yi Tiankong?" As long as you stop, I promise to tell you everything in detail. Yu Qianqiu shouted as he chased. In order to kill his opponent, he was willing to use all kinds of tricks. The two of them ran as fast as lightning. Three knights turned around and scolded. Bullsh *T. Don't give me that. Do you really think I'm a 3-year-old kid? F***ck. I'm a man of my words. I've never lied. Why don't you believe me? I might as well tell you directly. Listen carefully. Although he was speaking nonsense, he didn't slow down at all. Instead, he sped up with all his might. As long as his opponent was discouraged, he would rush forward and kill him. Thus he shouted as he chased. Three knights. Have you heard of the Myriad Swords Demon Lord? The Myriad Swords Demon Lord is your son Yi Tiankong. You probably never even dreamed of it. Hearing this, Demon Lord Three Knights' mind trembled. He subconsciously considered the possibility of this matter. Although he didn't slow down, he temporarily forgot to use the demonic light glimpse. The distance between the two of them was quickly shortened. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up. Psychological tactics were indeed effective. The opportunity was now, and he couldn't miss it. The 10,000 swords that were flying around him quickly merged together and shot out while the two of them were getting closer. Demon Lord Three Knights suddenly woke up and looked back. He was almost scared out of his wits. He quickly used the demonic light glimpse, but he felt an unforgettable pain in his shoulder blade. The divine arrow had pierced his shoulder blade, but before it could injure him deeply, his opponent had escaped in time. Yu Qianqiu couldn't help but feel that it was a pity. If the divine arrow had pierced his body, he would have been able to kill Demon Lord Three Knights in one fell swoop. It was a pity that he had escaped in time. Three Knights. Yi Tiankong's life is in my hands. As long as you surrender, I promise to let Yi Tiankong go. Otherwise, I will make him wish he was dead. Yu Qianqiu used the same trick and tried to use psychological tactics again. However, Demon Lord Three Knights wasn't an idiot and wouldn't fall for it a second time. After all, no one would joke around with their life. Demon Lord Three Knights, who was running away, suddenly roared towards the sky. Blood spurted out from the wound on his shoulder blade, forming a blood snake that coiled in his outstretched palm. The blood snake quickly condensed into a ball of blood. Yu Qianqiu's pupils shrank. He had a bad feeling about this scene. His opponent wouldn't harm himself for no reason. Demon Lord Three Knights suddenly turned around with the ball of blood in his hand. He knew that although his cultivation was lower than Yu Qianqiu's, his demonic arts were one of the best in the world. If Yu Qianqiu didn't rely on the sharpness of the heaven and earth splitting arrow and fought him with his bare fists, he was completely confident that he could kill Yu Qianqiu. The demonic god great art killing experts that were stronger than him was not a rare thing. However, some things were just facts, and there was no if. Yu Qianqiu, today's humiliation, I will make you pay back 1,000 times in the future. Just you wait. Demon Lord Three Knights roared fiercely. He resolutely turned around and crushed the ball of blood in his hand. In an instant, the red light exploded and engulfed his body. Not good. It's blood escape. Yu Qianqiu rushed into the red mist that filled the sky. His divine arrows exploded into thousands of golden lights that shot out in all directions. However, the red mist in the sky was collapsing and shrinking rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it formed a small blood scab that fell to the ground. Demon Lord Three Knights was nowhere to be seen. He didn't even have a trace of his aura. Damn it! You can escape once, but you can't escape forever. Unless you're no longer in the three realms, I want to see where you can run to. Yu Qianqiu was looking around and muttering. Suddenly, his expression changed as if he thought of something. He quickly said, "How could I forget about the demon realm?" His figure quickly disappeared in the sky. He didn't directly plant any coordinates at the entrance to the demon realm, but he did plant coordinates that were close to it. After he quickly teleported, he immediately rushed over with all his strength. When the pale-faced Demon Lord Three Knights suddenly appeared at the entrance to the demon realm, Yao Erlang, who was leading 100,000 soldiers to guard this place, immediately went over in shock and asked what had happened. Demon Lord Three Knights gave a simple explanation of what had happened, then ordered him to immediately order the army to retreat to the demon realm. Every bit of strength they could preserve was a bit of it. Yes, Yao Erlang was the first to obey. But then he couldn't help but ask, Demon Lord, once we seal the demon realm, what will happen to the rest of our army? Won't we be cutting off their last path of retreat? There's no time. The situation is urgent. Demon Lord Three Knights angrily waved his hand and said, I used blood escape to escape from Yu Qianzhou's pursuit. With Yu Qianzhou's cultivation, he probably won't even need a day to get here. The rest of the army won't be able to return to the demon realm before him. In order to protect the overall situation, we can only sacrifice them. In the future, when I make a comeback, I will definitely avenge them. Chapter 12:17. Yes. Yao Erlang obeyed once again. He didn't dare to say anything else, and quickly organized his army to retreat to the demon realm as fast as possible. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel lucky. If he hadn't been guarding this place, he would probably have been sacrificed at the critical moment. The army of 100,000 retreated majestically. The entrance to the demon realm wasn't very wide, so it was a bit crowded. However, the speed at which they retreated was not slow, and they flowed back to the demon realm like water. Demon King Three Knights stood on a mound and silently looked at everything in front of him. He thought back to how he had led his army to the three realms in high spirits, and now they were retreating in panic. This was something he had never dreamed of, and his heart was filled with grief and indignation. After Yao Erlang arranged everything, he quietly walked behind Demon King Three Knights and shouted, Demon King, you should go back first. I'll cover the retreat. Demon King Three Knights let out a long sigh and said, No need. Nothing will happen for now. Furthermore, I still need to wait for the army to retreat before sealing the demon realm. Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly turned around, and his expression changed. Not good. Yao Erlang, stop him. With that, his figure flashed and he shot towards the entrance to the demon realm. He punched the army at the entrance, causing blood and flesh to fly everywhere, instantly creating an opening. Panicked and confused screams filled the air. No one knew what was happening, why the demon lord would suddenly strike such a vicious blow against his own people. Yu Qianzhou, who was rushing over, immediately noticed the commotion here. As he flew, he felt the surging demonic qi, and immediately guessed that Demon King Three Knights was trying to escape. He angrily yelled, Old Thief Three Knights, don't run. Stop right there. The target was right in front of him, and he didn't expect him to make it in time. He immediately raised his speed to the limit, and used his late-stage Great God cultivation to teleport to intercept and kill. Yao Erlang's face darkened. He had only pretended to be respectful when he said that he would be safe for the time being. Who would have thought that the enemy would arrive so quickly, and he would really be the one to cover the enemy's retreat? Just think about it. Even the Demon King Three Knights would have to run if he encountered them. So how could he possibly stop them? However, he had no other choice. His primordial spirit was still in the hands of the Three Knights Demon King. If he tried his best, he could die a quick death in the hands of the enemy. Perhaps there would be a chance of survival, but on the contrary, he would die a horrible death. The Three Knights Demon King would not allow his subordinates to have a good ending, so he could only go all out. Monstrous chi filled the air. Just as the Three Knights Demon Lord flashed into the entrance of the demon world, Yao Erlang's body moved and immediately turned into a huge nine-tailed demonic wolf that was dozens of meters tall. His huge body and nine tails spread out like a peacock's tail. Strands of monstrous chi swirled around him as he blocked the entrance of the demon world. He bared his sharp fangs and roared at the sky. Why are you shouting? Get lost. In the blink of an eye, Yu Qianzhou rushed over and cursed. The sky-splitting arrow shot out like a bolt of lightning, directly into Yao Erlang's bloody mouth. Yao Erlang's roar immediately stopped. Boom! Tens of thousands of specks of golden light exploded from his body in all directions. The huge demonic wolf was instantly torn into pieces by the tens of thousands of divine swords. It was killed before it could even retaliate. The large group of people that had yet to enter the demon world were also hit by the tens of thousands of golden lights. They howled like ghosts and wolves. The charging Yu Qianqiu was just about to summon the 10,000 swords to protect himself and directly charge into the demon world. However, he saw that one of the 9 huge wolf tails that had fallen to the ground had withered, while the others had all stood up and swept towards him like crazy wands. Rocks and stones flew everywhere, and strong winds blew. A faint, resentful voice rang out in the air. "I, the 9 lives demonic wolf, have 9 lives. If you want to kill me like this, aren't you looking down on me, Yao Erlang?" The charging Yu Qianqiu's pupil shrank. It wasn't because he was frightened by Yao Erlang, but because he saw that the black light at the entrance of the demon world was rapidly shrinking. In the blink of an eye, it was only the size of a water bucket. There was no way for him to charge through. In other words, someone was sealing the demon world from the demon world. Buzz! The true Samadhi fire ignited his entire body. Yu Qianqiu directly charged over. He stretched out his hand and grabbed one of the huge wolf tails. Grabbing one, he swept away the other 9, causing Yao Erlang to howl like a cat in pain. In a moment of desperation, Yu Qianqiu threw a handful of silver balls at the entrance of the demon realm. Most of the dozens of silver balls missed, causing the cave to collapse. Only 4 or 5 of them managed to enter the fist-sized black light. Yu Qianqiu didn't know if they could enter the demon realm. At the entrance of the demon world, a gust of wind blew through the rubble. There was still blood and flesh on the rubble. No one paid attention to the 4 or 5 silver balls that had been instantly buried in the rubble. Demon Lord 3 Knights couldn't help rejoicing when he saw that the Demon God Seal had been quickly sealed. If it wasn't for the Demon God Seal's swift and domineering reaction, it would have been really troublesome this time. If Yu Qianqiu had chased him all the way to the demon world, then he wouldn't have had the time to calmly prepare the materials and set up the complicated demon god message formation to contact the demon gods in the divine world. Even though he had luckily escaped, he still broke out in a cold sweat. He really didn't expect Yu Qianqiu to come so quickly. Otherwise, he wouldn't have blindly sighed at the entrance even if he was beaten to death. Thinking of the entrance, he was shocked again. There was more than one entrance to the demon world. With Yu Qianqiu's fast reaction speed, it was probably going to be troublesome. Without another word, he hurriedly left. In reality, he was overreacting. Other than the completely sealed human world, Yu Qianqiu didn't know where the other entrances were. This was especially true for the other 71 worlds in the human world. He didn't have any coordinates for them, so it would be very difficult for him to rush to the other entrances in a short period of time. As for the sealed human world, unless it was absolutely necessary, Yu Qianqiu wouldn't open it. The remaining subordinates of Yao Erlang, who had luckily escaped into the demon world, looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Now that the demon world had been sealed, it would be very difficult for the great demon king Yao Erlang to return in a short period of time. Hence, under the command of the current highest commander, they returned to Yao Erlang's lair and waited outside. When Yu Qianqiu saw that the passageway to the demon world had been sealed, he was instantly enraged. He wanted to settle the score with the fellow who dared to ruin his plans. As he turned around angrily, the wolf's tail in his hand was instantly turned into ashes by the true Samadhi fire. Yao Erlang's screams could be heard. Seeing that his task of stopping Meng Qi had been completed, the latter's first reaction was naturally to escape. The remaining 7 tails quickly swept in 7 different directions, thinking that if one escaped, he would be able to save his life. Now that things had come to this, how could Yu Qianqiu not see that this long-lived demon's tail was strange? 7 balls of true Samadhi fire shot onto the 7 divine swords, and rapidly shot out in 7 different directions. In the blink of an eye, they caught up to the 7 tails and nailed them to the ground. Under the refinement of the true Samadhi fire, Yao Erlang's 7 screams rang out from 7 different directions. How could he be a match for Yu Qianqiu, who was now a late-stage great god? Seeing that the situation was hopeless, the remaining demonic army immediately scattered. Yu Qianqiu flashed into the sky, and the 10,000 divine swords killed the demonic army deserters in 4 directions at the same time. With his profound cultivation, the swords simply didn't miss their targets. In an instant, more than half of them were killed, but a small portion still managed to escape. There were many of them, and it was impossible for Yu Qianqiu to chase after these small fries. No matter how high his cultivation was, he wouldn't be able to catch up to them all. There would naturally be others who would come to clean them up. The 10,000 swords merged into one in the sky and disappeared together with Yu Qianqiu. They turned around and teleported to the demonic realm. They chased after the demonic army nonstop all the way to the demonic realm. The setting sun in the demonic realm before them was like blood, and there was a faintly discernible baleful aura in the air. It was as if there was resentment accumulated from countless years of killing, and it gave people a strange feeling of irritation. Yu Qianqiu looked around at the bleak mountain range. There was no grass, no trees, and only strange rocks. There was not a single person in sight. The sealed entrance to the demonic realm was right in front of him. Facing the rune seal on the mountain wall, the heaven and earth splitting arrow flashed out. Just as it was about to blast it open and reopen the entrance to the demonic realm, Yu Qianqiu's eyes flashed, and he withdrew the divine arrow. He looked around again. He had no idea where the demon lord 3 knights had run off to. Even if he caught up to him, he could escape faster than anything. It would probably be difficult to kill him completely. Instead of chasing them everywhere, Yu Qianqiu sneered and decided not to alert them for the time being. Once the 3 realms army had cleaned up the outside world, he would open the seal on the demon world himself, closing the door and beating the dogs, striving to eradicate the entire demonic path in one fell swoop. Thinking of this, he carefully checked his surroundings again. After confirming that no one had seen him appear, he silently disappeared again. In the wilderness of Utopia, Yu Qianqiu found the demonic blade from a pile of rubble after appearing. He picked up the demonic blade, which had no owner, and looked at it. This divine weapon seemed to have become the Black Moon Pagoda of the past. It was silent and nameless, and no one could tell that it was a divine weapon used by the number 1 expert in the god realm. He had wanted to detain the demon blade in Utopia, but when he thought of the terrifying demonic eye that would appear in the sky from time to time, Yu Qianqiu could not help but look up into the sky. He did not doubt that the demon god could tear open the void and retrieve the demon blade at any time. Damn it! This thing will be a scourge sooner or later. It'll be disgusting if I don't get rid of it. Yu Qianqiu held it in his hand and muttered. True samadhi fire surged out of his body, wanting to refine it. However, just as he was about to do something, he subconsciously looked at the white clouds in the sky. His expression twitched, and he retracted the true samadhi fire into his body. He looked at the demonic blade in his hand and felt depressed. He could not guarantee that refining the demonic blade of a demonic god here would not alarm that terrifying fellow. If the demonic god tore open the void and started a massacre in Utopia, it would be troublesome. Just as he was in a dilemma, his eyes suddenly lit up. He muttered, "Boundary of the heavens," and disappeared on the spot. After rushing to Ethereal Palace, Yu Qianqiu dragged Xinyu and instantly arrived at the river Styx. Without needing him to say anything, Xinyu, who had been reduced to a means of transportation, jumped into the river Styx obediently and transformed into his original form. He opened his clamshell and carried Yu Qianqiu, who had flashed in, straight to the mausoleum of the gods. Once he arrived at the cliff of the Hengduan mountain under the bright moon, Yu Qianqiu immediately sent Xinyu back to Utopia. He summoned the demon blade and looked around. After confirming that there was no one, he found a cave and used the earth art to hide in the mountain. As he chuckled coldly, true samadhi fire surged out of his body. Chapter 12:18. The moment Jiuyu sent him into the mausoleum of the god of sin, it also meant that the demon blade's connection with the outside world had been completely cut off. In the depths of the distant starry sky, a pair of eyes that seemed to have been frozen for countless years slowly opened in the land where the sun shone. There was a dark place shrouded in rolling clouds all year round. The sun used to shine brightly there, and there were once birds chirping and flowers fragrant. There were also lush trees, but now it was obscure and squinting. The birds and flowers were gone, and what was left was only a barren land. Although the trees that originally grew there were still intact, they had grown deformed. All the trees were black, including the leaves. They were so black that they glowed as if they were sculptures carved from black jade. It was definitely not right to say that they were lifeless sculptures. Not only were they alive, but they also had very unique life forms. The trees of different heights looked like old monsters. Some trees stretched out their two huge branches and yawned, looking very lifelike. Some trees were murmuring and twisting their trunks, as if they were tossing and turning in bed in their sleep. Some of the trees were actually hugging and kissing each other, as if they were a pair of lovers who were reluctant to part with each other. Their shy and sweet expressions were vivid and lifelike in the cracks on the bark. Behind the two trees, a tree suddenly opened two eyes on its trunk. The eyes gradually widened, as if it had seen something unbelievable. Its two branches covered its mouth like hands and let out a sharp ah sound. Then the trunk bent, and the upper half of the tree body pounced on the two trees. It waved its branches like hands and tore at the two trees. This scene was no different from catching an adulterer. In the area near the edge of the sun, a flying beetle broke into this strange forest and flew around randomly. As soon as it approached a big tree, a mouth that looked like a straw suddenly shot out from the trunk and sucked the beetle in. Then, one could see a chewing expression on the bark of the tree. A gray-skinned mouse rushed in curiously and approached the root of a big tree to explore this strange gray world. Suddenly, a few big hands reached over and tore the mouse into pieces. The four big trees grabbed the food at the same time, and each grabbed a piece. They then threw the bloody mouse meat into their mouths. The expressions on the tree trunks showed that it was a rare delicacy, and they chewed it slowly with a lingering aftertaste. All kinds of similar or inconceivable things were happening repeatedly in this forest. In this terrifying forest, all the trees lived in an unbelievable way. They seemed to have evolved into animals, but they didn't have the freedom of animals. They couldn't run around. They were trapped under the gray sky, rooted here and unable to move. In the center of this frightening forest, there was a towering skyscraper cliff. The cliff was originally the color of a normal stone, but now it was so dark that it seemed to be dripping oil. The vines on the mountain were like strange snakes that stretched and wriggled, making one shudder. Starting from halfway up the mountain, it was shrouded in an impenetrable gray fog. The wind was mournful and frightening, but it could not blow away this heavy gray fog. Above the cliff was the rolling dark clouds that covered an area of countless kilometers. All the lives that were shrouded in it lived in an unbelievable state. Below the dark clouds, at the top of the skyscraper cliff, there was a magnificent palace. It was originally bright and dazzling, but now it had also been dyed black. There were 4 words on the huge board announcing the palace: Temple of Light. Those who were familiar with this place knew that this was originally the temple of the ancient god of light. The endless territory shrouded in dark clouds was also the territory of the ancient god of light. Those who were familiar with this place knew that the ancient god of light had been chased away by someone. In the end, the dove took over the magpie's nest and changed its master. The current master of the temple made people tremble with fear in the god realm. Everyone agreed that he was synonymous with darkness, the master of the night, and the master of blood. People called him Demon God Night. At the edge of the cliff, a lonely figure stood there motionlessly. For countless years, the master of the temple rarely rested in the temple. He stood there in solitude, facing his endless gray territory. The wind from the 9th heaven never stopped blowing. The tall figure silently stood at the edge of the cliff with his arms crossed, tall and straight like an unshakable mountain. A black waistcoat covered his shoulders and half of his body. The edge of the waistcoat had some loose pieces of cloth that fluttered in the wind. His long and messy hair fluttered in the wind. Under his fluttering long hair, there was a deep diamond-shaped blood mark between his eyebrows. Under his thick eyebrows, his eyes were lightly closed. His cheeks were as sharp as knives and axes, and under his steel-like nose bridge, his lips were as red as rubies. He was like an immortal statue standing at the edge of the cliff. Black was the devil, red was the heart, but he was as lonely as snow. He was the number 1 expert of the god realm, the demon god Night, whose name shook the universe. Those familiar with this place all knew that it was not the dark clouds that roiled in the sky. Instead, wherever he went, the laws of the world would naturally form, causing the demonic clouds to surge. Under the envelopment of the demonic clouds and the long-term corrosion of the demonic chi, all life would show a demonic mutation, which was why such a strange forest would appear in this territory. The huge dragon's eyes shone with golden light, releasing an unquestionable pressure. The entire dragon was golden, and its entire body shone with golden light. It coiled up in the vast star palace that was dotted with starlight, looking extremely majestic and majestic. The display on the light screen was only projected according to the scale, so it was impossible to determine exactly how big the dragon's true body was. The red light in Demon God Knight's eyes retracted from the depths of the endless universe, and his blood-red eyes looked at the projection on the light screen in front of him. His lips did not move, but a cold and merciless voice resounded from his mouth. "Coiling dragon, I advise you not to be too nosy." "Knight!" Again, the dragon's lips did not move, but the ancient voice also resounded. "I just want to remind you that the bet you made with Tao is coming to an end. After so many years of patience, if you give up at the last moment, wouldn't it be a pity? That is the bet between me and Tao. What does it have to do with you? You have interfered again and again. Do you really think that I don't dare to flatten your divine dragon mountain?" Demon God Knight's voice resounded. The dragon's voice resounded again. "As the final arbiter who will decide the winner, I have the obligation to remind you to keep your promise. If you break the promise, even if you win in the end, Tao doesn't have to help you resurrect Dark. This is the bet that you must remember." Demon God Knight's voice was filled with a strong sense of threat. "If he dares to break the promise, I will kill him as well, and let all living beings in the divine realm and the lower three realms be buried together with Dark, leaving only the demon Tao eternal glory. Oh, if you really think that you are a match for Tao, then you should think about it yourself." As soon as the dragon's voice fell, the projection on the light screen suddenly disappeared in front of the skyscraping stone cliff. As soon as the words came out, the blood-red light in Demon God Knight's eyes soared. After a long time, it slowly subsided, and his eyes slowly closed again. Under his fluttering long hair, his cheeks gently rubbed against the black waistcoat on his shoulder, and his ruby-like lips opened to speak, which was rare for him. In the shrill wind, his voice was so soft that it almost sounded like a whisper. "Dark is coming very soon. He will resurrect you again. In the future, no one will ever be able to separate us." Chapter 12:19. At this time, Yu Qianqiu didn't know that his recklessness almost brought about a disaster. But it was resolved by someone else. In the space of the mountain, the true Samadhi fire was frantically refining the demon blade. In the colorful flames, the demon blade let out sorrowful cries and trembled violently, wanting to escape. However, Yu Qianqiu was already prepared. A bunch of divine swords stabbed it to death. It couldn't escape even if it wanted to. Under the burning of the true Samadhi fire that could refine anything, the weapon spirit's cries became weaker and weaker. Yu Qianqiu's sinister laughter rang out from time to time. Almost at the same time, in the demon world, Demon King 3 Knights didn't hurry to set up the demon god communication formation to contact the demon god. Instead, he hurriedly ran around, adding seals to all the passages to the demon world. There were more than 70 passages, and it was indeed enough for him to run around for a while. The demonic blade was indeed powerful. It was worthy of being a divine weapon personally refined by a demon god. It had been refining it for more than half a month, but it still hadn't been refined. However, Yu Qianqiu was very patient and destroyed it. He simply wouldn't stop until he achieved his goal. Many things had happened in the past half a month. Now that they had a chance to turn the situation around, Wu Feng and Madame Blackpool had gathered an unprecedentedly powerful force. All the powerful figures of the underworld and the entire water race of the Styx colluded together. In a short period of time, they had mobilized almost the entire underworld. Such a great force shocked everyone. Hundreds of billions of people swept through the entire underworld. The demonic cultivators who didn't retreat and hide in time couldn't find a place to hide. They were easily found and eradicated. After clearing out the underworld, because there were too many people, There was a limit to how effective they could be. It was a waste of manpower and time. Thus, Wu Feng ordered Wang Qing to personally lead the 20 billion underworld army into the celestial realm to wipe them out, while he commanded the other armies to split into the 71 worlds of the human world to wipe out the demonic path. After wiping out the demonic path in the 71 worlds of the human world, the 72 armies pointed their spearheads at the celestial realm. Hundreds of billions of people gathered in the celestial realm. The scene and momentum were astonishing. It could be said to be an unprecedented mobilization of the three realms. In addition, there were more than 30 experts from the Netherworld Divine Manor who were sent to help the various armies. They killed the remnants of the Devil Path, and there was no way for them to resist at all. Wherever the army went, the stubborn enemies were killed. A month later, in the space of the mountain in the mausoleum of the god of sin, the mournful cries in the colorful flames finally disappeared. The magic blade began to melt slowly, and the metal liquid dripped to the ground. When the magic blade completely melted into the metal liquid, Yu Qianqiu still didn't feel at ease. He used the golden seal to completely disintegrate the metal liquid into its molecular state. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and leave. Once he returned to the celestial realm, he was shocked by the sea of people everywhere. With his reputation of defeating Demon King 3 nights, it was naturally not difficult to find people to understand the situation. After learning that Wang Qing had reoccupied the Heartless Palace, and that the headquarters of the army was set up there, he quickly rushed to the Heartless Palace. At this time, the information network that had been created by a large number of people in the celestial realm was very efficient. Before Yu Qianqiu arrived at the Heartless Palace, the leaders of the army led by Wu Feng came out to welcome him. Wu Feng's welcome was very grand. 100,000 banners fluttered in the wind, and on each of the banners was written the word Yu. 100,000 cultivators raised the banners in the air to welcome him. There were also over 1,000 beautiful cultivators standing on both sides, looking very pleasing to the eye. This scene made Yu Qianqiu, who had just arrived, a little dumbfounded. He didn't know when he had become so strong, and he couldn't help but sigh that this guy with the surname Wu had really put in a lot of effort. Greetings, torture envoy. Wu Feng and the others came to welcome him in splendid attire. They took the lead in saluting and shouting loudly. Immediately, the voices of tens of thousands of people came from all directions, echoing through the heaven and earth. Yu Qianqiu felt a toothache watching this. He casually waved his hand and said, "No need to be so courteous. Wu Feng, how's the situation?" Now that his status had doubled, there was no need for him to act like a grandson. Wu Feng didn't mind. Just as he was about to report the situation of the battle, Hong Tailong had already rushed out and overstepped his authority to report. This made Wu Feng very unhappy, but he was from the immortal realm, so he could only awkwardly prepare to wait for Hong Tailong to finish farting. "I killed 2 of the great demon kings under San Yi. The remaining one escaped into the divine ruin realm." After Hong Tailong finished, he looked at Wu Feng unhappily and said, "I'm not too familiar with the situation in the divine ruin realm, so I asked this guy to organize people to attack the divine ruin realm. But he said he wanted to wait for you to make the decision. Isn't this delaying the battle?" Seeing him complain, Wu Feng laughed dryly. He came over and bowed to Yu Qianqiu. He said, "Reporting to Torture Envoy, the Underworld, Immortal Realm, and the 71 worlds of the human realm have all been purged. My army of 100 billion is waiting for the enemy. Torture Envoy, please tell us what to do next." An army of 100 billion? Yu Qianqiu sucked in a breath of cold air and looked around. He thought to himself that with so many cultivators in the 3 realms, it would be strange if it wasn't chaotic. This was the source of chaos. After a moment of silence, he looked at the deity-level experts from the Netherworld God Estate and asked with a frown, "Who knows the art to seal the 2 realms?" The 30 or so people looked at each other. Although they didn't know what he wanted to do, one of them still walked out and bowed. He said, "Kongzhong, I know a thing or two. I'm willing to listen to Torture Envoy's orders." "Kongzhong, are you the only one who knows?" Yu Qianqiu glanced at the others, then nodded slowly and said, Currently, the demon realm has already been completely sealed by Demon Lord 3 Knights from the inside. However, it can't stop us from entering. I have my own ways to forcefully break open his seal. What we need to do now is to give him a taste of his own medicine. If he seals it from the inside, we'll seal it from the outside. Then we'll open a gap and enter. We'll close the gates and beat the dogs, completely eradicating the demonic Tao. After announcing his intentions, he immediately ordered Wu Feng. Wu Feng, quickly gather all the troops that can be gathered and wait at the entrance to the demon realm. Once I open the passage to the demon realm, the army will immediately attack the demon realm. After this battle, we must make sure that the demonic Tao in this world is extinct. Yes, Wu Feng bowed excitedly. In his heart, he imagined that Yu Qianqiu and the people from the netherworld god estate would go to the god realm sooner or later. At that time, the demonic Tao would be completely eradicated. Then, it would be easy to imagine who the master of the 3 realms would be. Yu Qianqiu then pointed at Kang Zhong and said, "You come with me." With a wave of his hand, he disappeared along with Hong Tai Long. Once they left, Wu Feng quickly ordered all the armies to gather at the passage to the demon realm. In an instant, hundreds of billions of troops responded vigorously, and like a sky full of dark clouds, they set off in the same direction. And the first place that Yu Qianqiu appeared with Kang Zhong and Hong Tai Long was the entrance to the realm of God. Hong Tai Long looked around and couldn't help but ask, "What are we doing here? This is the final battle. I don't want any more trouble to appear in the realm of God." Yu Qianqiu pointed at the white light swirling in the cave and said indifferently, "Seal it for me." Kang Zhong naturally had no objections to this. Looking at the iron seal in front of him, Yu Qianqiu waved his hand, and the heaven and earth splitting arrow struck the seal. However, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. The divine arrow stabbed into the seal, creating a huge hole in it. However, a strange scene occurred. The broken seal was actually rapidly repairing itself, and the divine arrow was forced out. Yu Qianqiu let out a cry of surprise. He controlled the divine arrow to bombard the seal, but he was unable to break the seal. Only then did he realize that breaking the seal was not something that could be broken with brute force. In the end, he could only summon Kang Zhong and ask if he could break the seal. After Kang Zhong checked it carefully, he said with a grave expression, "This is an extremely profound sealing technique. My abilities are limited, so I can't break this seal." Chapter 12:20. Damn it! Yu Qianqiu was a little gloomy. He had been busy for so long, yet he was unable to break it. Wasn't this a waste of effort? He looked around speechlessly. He had no way of wiping out the people from the demon world single-handedly. He didn't have the ability to destroy a planet. Did he really have to bring in a large number of people from the outside? Just then Kang Zhong added, "Isn't the torture envoy able to control the true Samadhi fire? Why don't you use the true Samadhi fire to completely refine this seal?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned. He slapped his forehead and smiled. "I've been so busy that I've become muddle-headed. You can go back first. I'll look for you again if there's anything." With a wave of his hand, the speechless Kang Zhong was sent back to Utopia. Yu Qianqiu walked to the seal and pressed his hand on it. 7 colored flames immediately surged out from his palm and attached themselves to the seal, burning non-stop. Not long after, he felt that the mysterious formation in the seal was completely destroyed by the true Samadhi fire. The seal let out a crisp sound and started to crack. Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up. He suddenly clenched his palm into a fist and punched the seal heavily. Bang! A ball of spinning black light immediately appeared behind the shattered seal. As the black light gradually expanded, rocks and stones rushed out of the black light. Around the entrance of the celestial world, there was an endless number of people waiting. Wu Feng and the rest stood guard near the collapsed entrance. They didn't know when Yu Qianqiu would come. Just then, the collapsed entrance suddenly rumbled, and everyone's gazes immediately focused on it. It was as if a funnel had appeared. The rubble that had been piled up together poured out in torrents, and a large black hole appeared. The spinning black light in the hole was clearly visible. Immediately, someone cried out in surprise, The demon world has reopened. Everyone did not know that Yu Qianqiu had already gone to the demon world. Wu Feng's pupil shrank as he shouted, "Prepare to meet the enemy." The divine wind staff in his hands was already at the ready. Those deity-level experts also surrounded them. At this moment, Yu Qianqiu's figure suddenly flashed out from the swirling black light. Looking at the people who were on guard, he understood that they might have misunderstood. He smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. I broke the seal of the demon world from the inside." Everyone looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief. It would be troublesome if Demon King 3 Knights came out. They put down their weapons and bowed in unison. "Greetings, disciplinary envoy. Don't stand on ceremony." Yu Qianqiu waved his hand. He could not be bothered to waste words with them. He looked around with a solemn expression. Now, apart from this passageway, all the other passageways leading to the demon world have been sealed. The time to completely eradicate the demonic path has come. Today is the day to beat the dogs. Does everyone have the confidence to fight to the death against the demonic path? Without waiting for anyone to reply, Wu Feng rushed to bow. "We are willing to follow the disciplinary envoy through fire and water." As he said this, the others also followed suit. "Good." Yu Qianqiu looked at Wu Feng with great admiration and nodded. "There's no time to lose. While the demonic path hasn't discovered that the passageway has been opened, immediately send out the troops." With a single order, Wu Feng immediately organized the army to set out for the demon world. Wang Qing and over 30 deity-level experts entered the demon world first, and then a large number of people entered. Yu Qianqiu flew in the air, expressionlessly watching the army pour into the demon world. By the time the army of 100 billion had entered the demon world, it was already a day later. The spectacle was unimaginable to those who had not been there personally. Wu Feng was the last to enter. Before entering, he looked around at the empty surroundings, and a hint of wariness rose in his heart. However, under Yu Qianqiu's cold gaze, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and enter the demon world. At this moment, Yu Qianqiu descended from the sky and summoned Kang Zhong from Utopia. He pointed at the passageway to the demon world and said coldly, "Seal it for me." Kang Zhong also looked around. He did not know what had happened, but even if he knew what had happened, he could not refuse. He could only obediently seal the demon world. After this, Yu Qianqiu sent him back to Utopia, and once again hid the passageway between the immortal world and the demon world. "Ah, the passageway has been sealed. Heavens! What's going on?" The people from the demon world suddenly realized that the swirling black light in the passageway had disappeared. They immediately realized that the passageway had been sealed from the outside, and immediately fell into chaos. Wu Feng, who had long sensed that something was wrong, was even more dumbfounded. He could only blame himself for being too greedy and helping Yu Qianqiu screw himself over. Wang Qing and the 30 or so god-level experts who were on high alert in the distance were also alarmed by the commotion. They all ran over to ask what had happened, and when they learned that the passageway had been sealed, their faces turned ashen. Wu Xiong's face was even more ashen as he said, "Father, I already knew that this person had ulterior motives. Great, we were all tricked into coming here by him. He clearly wants to catch us all in one fell swoop. Let me ask you, no matter how many people we have, how can we be a match for Demon King 3 Knights? Wu Xiong, you have to take responsibility for your words." Yu Qianqiu's voice suddenly rang out in the air. "Begin." Hearing this, Wu Feng was overjoyed. The meaning in these words was very clear. The commander's authority was once again given to him. As long as he didn't disappoint him, there would be great benefits in the future. He immediately accepted the order and went to make arrangements. Not long after, the 100 billion army was divided into 1,000 teams. Each team had over 100 million people. After planning out the communication methods, the 1,000 teams started to attack in all directions. Under the gray sky, the vast number of people surged forward like a tide, sweeping in all directions. The scene was extremely shocking. For countless years, the demon path had always suppressed the 3 realms. Now that the 3 realms were united, they launched an unprecedented all-out counterattack. A bloody massacre against the demon path had officially begun. A decisive battle that would decide the fate of the three realms had begun in the demon realm. However, no matter what the final result of this battle was, the final battlefield was forcefully locked down by Yu Qianqiu. Under this bloody sky, the three realms outside were instead unprecedentedly peaceful. The grudges and gratitude that had been pent up in the three realms seemed to vanish in an instant. Those weak cultivators who didn't have the right to participate in the battle all came out and wandered around. They found that without the giant above them, the world was so vast that they could wander freely. They trembled with fear, not knowing that the era that belonged to them had begun. Yu Qianqiu wasn't in a hurry to find Demon King Three Knights to settle the score. Instead, he followed Black Wind's team and watched as Black Wind and his family fought with their lives on the line. He also occasionally used the communication network between the armies to understand the progress of the battles. Beneath the mountain range shrouded in blood-red clouds, within the towering demon palace, the three knights' demon monarch roared at his kneeling subordinates. After a series of curses, he kicked a few people in front of him and roared, "Find them! Go find them for me! Even if you have to turn the entire demon realm upside down. Gather all the people. Kill anyone who dares to hide them." His subordinates obediently dispersed. Demon King Three Knights was still extremely angry and paced around the palace in a flustered and exasperated manner. There was no other reason. The materials for setting up the demon god communication formation were almost all prepared. The only thing he couldn't gather were the 800 virgin girls for the blood sacrifice. He had thought that with the large population of the demon realm, it would be easy to gather them all. Never in his dreams would three knights have thought that all the other hard-to-find materials had been gathered. But only the people he thought were the easiest to find had stumped him, the sovereign of the demon realm. This was clearly mocking the demon realm for having no one. How could he endure this? Chapter 12:21. Father. A shout came from outside the demon palace, and a figure flashed in. Demon Lord Three Knights, who was pacing back and forth in the great hall, suddenly stopped. He frowned and stared at the newcomer, shouting, "What a disgrace! Learn more from Eunuch Li." The newcomer was none other than his eldest son, Yi Wanzong. After Three Knights led Eunuch Li and the others to conquer the three realms, the affairs of the demon palace were handed over to Yi Wanzong. Later, Eunuch Li died at Wen Longfeng's hands, and Yin Juexing was killed by Yu Qianqiu. Yi Wanzong became the successor of the Demon King, and also took over Eunuch Li's affairs. Yi Wanzong wanted to say something but stopped himself. The matter was urgent, so he suppressed his desire to explain and reported directly. "Father, something bad has happened. The sealed passages between the immortal and demon realms seem to have been opened. Large armies from the three realms are attacking the demon realm. The great demon kings have sent news that there are many experts among them. They are facing defeat and have sent news to the demon palace, requesting for Father's immediate support." "What?" Demon Lord Three Knights turned pale with fright. His eyebrows that resembled a horned dragon furrowed deeply as he said, "How is this possible? I've already sealed all the passages, and the guards guarding the passages didn't see Yu Qianqiu or anyone suspicious enter either." He suddenly raised his head and shouted, "Just how many people do they have? Are you sure it's an army from the three realms? Could it be someone from the demon realm taking the opportunity to stir up trouble?" "How many?" Yi Wanzong's face stiffened. "I've asked around, but I don't know how many there are. But from the information I've received, there should be a lot." "How many is a lot?" Demon King Three Knights' face darkened immediately. "Is this how you do things? Since when did you, Eunuch Li, report something you don't know? Just let your subordinates capture a few captives and we'll know." Yes. Yi Wanzong nodded repeatedly. He was already a little dizzy from the scolding. He quickly changed the topic and said, "Judging from the news from various places, those people are indeed from the three realms. The great demon King Red Spirit even saw the old opponents he had met in the three realms." Demon King Three Knights glared and shouted in disappointment, "What are you waiting for? Go and investigate." Yi Wanzong hurriedly ran away. The former's face gradually revealed an anxious expression. Right now, Sanyi was not worried about the number of opponents. No matter how many small fries there were, they were nothing in his eyes. What he was truly worried about was that Yu Qianqiu had also come to the devil world. But what made him suspicious was that, logically speaking, it shouldn't be difficult for Yu Qianqiu to find out the location of the demon palace. With Yu Qianqiu's speed, he should have already killed his way here. He shouldn't have waited until the battle reports had been reported. Could it be that Yu Qianqiu didn't come? No matter how he thought about it, Demon Lord Three Knights felt that it was unlikely. If it weren't for Yu Qianqiu's orders, the army of the Three Realms wouldn't have dared to be so arrogant, and they wouldn't have the guts to invade the demon realm. But if that was the case, why didn't Yu Qianqiu react? Was he trying to lure him out? He couldn't think of anything right, which put him in a very difficult position. If the people of the Three Realms joined forces and attacked, with the help of the people from the Netherworld God Estate, it would be hard for the remaining 11 great demon kings to deal with them if he didn't act. If he acted, he was worried that it might be a trap set by Yu Qianqiu. Little did they know that Yu Qianqiu's goal was very simple. He disliked the fact that there were too many people who fought and fought for power all day, causing the world to be restless. He planned to let these people fight to their heart's content and satisfy their craving. Thus, he wanted Three Knights to organize an effective attack and use the demon realm as a knife to consume the cultivators of the Three Realms. At the same time, he wanted to use the knife of the Three Realms to slaughter the cultivators of the demon realm. Since the demon realm was now completely sealed, he wasn't afraid of Three Knights running away. If Three Knights dared to come out, he would resolutely attack him, but not kill him, because once Three Knights killed, the flag of the demon realm would fall. The demon realm's morale would be slack, and they wouldn't be able to organize an effective resistance. There would be a one-sided massacre. This wasn't what Yu Qianqiu wanted to see. Therefore, Three Knights could only be killed last. Of course, there was another important reason. Of course, it was good to finish the battle quickly. But the key was that Yu Qianqiu didn't want to let this army of 100 billion return to the Three Realms. At the same time, he was worried that they would become a scourge sooner or later. However, he couldn't bear to kill them himself. After all, he wasn't killing 100 billion bacteria, but 100 billion people. He didn't believe in such things in the past. But now that he had come into contact with too many supernatural beings, he was worried that he would be punished by heaven. So he could only turn a blind eye and do as he pleased. At this time, the demon realm was in a mess. The entire demon realm had entered a frenzied state of killing. Rivers of blood flowed everywhere, and bloody light flames and shrill screams filled the sky. The smell of blood lingered in the air for a long time and didn't dissipate. Instead, it became even more pungent. The demon realm's army couldn't stop the attack of such a huge force. As soon as they were surrounded, some people surrendered. However, the great army of the Three Realms had come to vent their anger and vengeance, and they had the upper hand in victory. In addition, Yu Qianqiu had repeatedly emphasized that the demonic path must be completely eradicated. Thus, they even killed those who surrendered, leaving no survivors. The entire army of the Three Realms was about to go crazy from the intense thrill of revenge. Troops from all directions were everywhere, constantly advancing and attacking, killing. As a result, when the heroes of the demon realm saw that surrendering would only lead to death, they naturally risked their lives. The killing became more and more tragic, and at critical moments, there were even scenes of mutual destruction. The valiance of the heroes of the demon realm immediately brought heavy losses to the armies of the Three Realms, but their own losses were even heavier. On a desolate hillside, corpses were strewn everywhere. Smoke and fire had scorched the ground black in the east, and scorched it black in the west. Wherever the smoke passed, broken limbs could be seen everywhere. Gurgling blood was still flowing in the gullies. Yu Qianqiu silently stood on the hillside. His green robe was wrapped in the thick smell of blood. Where he looked, an intense battle was already nearing its end. In the distance, a black hurricane that connected heaven and earth was gradually dying down. Wu Feng flew over with a wind god staff in hand, bowed and said, "Torture envoy, We have already eliminated the stubborn resistance of the demon realm army here. But the resistance of the demonic path is getting more and more intense. This time we also lost millions of people. After saying that, he secretly observed Yu Qianqiu's expression. To be honest, he was very depressed. If Yu Qianqiu helped, he could completely reduce the loss to a minimum. However, he didn't even lift a finger along the way. The subtext of his report was actually to remind Yu Qianqiu, shouldn't you also help? You've worked hard. Yu Qianqiu first acknowledged his contributions, then looked at him with a gratified expression and sighed. Actually, you don't have to do everything personally. Right now, the command of the army of the three realms is on you alone. The reason I've been following you is because you are the command center. I have to ensure your safety. You must know that killing a demon lord 3 nights is easy, but to completely eradicate the entire demonic path requires a lot of effort. So your burden is very heavy. As a commander, you shouldn't be running to the front lines to kill the enemy. When he said this, Wu Feng instantly felt much better. From what he said, it seemed that Yu Qianqiu didn't want to stand by and watch everyone go to their deaths. At least on the surface, he seemed to think highly of him. Torture envoy, thank you for your trouble. Wu Feng hurriedly bowed and purposely squeezed out a grateful expression. Meanwhile, Yu Qianqiu looked around and suddenly transmitted to him in a low voice. After this, me and the old guys in the Netherworld God office will go to the God realm. At that time, you'll be the only one left to take charge of the 3 realms. Some people in the God realm don't want to see the 3 realms fall into chaos again, so they want to eradicate the root of the chaos, the demonic path. I'm supporting you today for the same reason. I want you to establish your prestige in this war. After that, you'll naturally have enough prestige to restore the peace of the 3 realms. That way, we can go to the God realm in peace. This is the biggest reason I haven't taken action yet. The meaning of his words was too clear. I'm not taking action to give you a chance to establish your prestige. Otherwise, once I take action, I'll steal your limelight. I'm supporting you to become the boss of the 3 realms. These words were so explicit that Wu Feng was a bit flattered. Although he firmly believed that things wouldn't be so simple, he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Yu Qianqiu's temptation was too great. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. There was a saying that a man's loyalty was because the weight of betrayal was too low. In other words, when the benefits offered were great enough, it would be hard for him to resist the temptation. Temptation would triumph over reason. I'll follow the arrangements of the torture envoy. Wu Feng's voice actually trembled slightly. The boss of the 3 realms. This was a long-cherished wish that even Demon King 3 Nights hadn't fulfilled. Under the mountain range shrouded in red blood clouds, a beam of light flashed past. Yi Wanzong returned to the demon palace. However, this time, he didn't dare to hastily barge in. He was afraid of being scolded again. He first stood at the palace gate and respectfully called out, "Father!" Only when Demon King 3 Nights shouted, "Come in," did he anxiously walk in front of 3 Nights and report. Great Demon King Red Spirit has personally captured a few people for interrogation. The 3 realms have gathered an army of over 100 billion to attack the demon realm. They say they want to completely eradicate the demonic path. 100 billion? 3 Nights sucked in a breath of cold air. Yes. Yi Wanzong secretly looked at his expression and continued. It's been confirmed. Yu Qianqiu has also followed the army of the 3 realms to the demon realm. He was the one who opened the passage between the celestial realm and the demon realm. And he even sealed all the passages to the outside world. Demon King 3 Nights sank into deep thought. After a long while he slowly said, "Then why doesn't he take action himself?" To him, Yu Qianqiu was his only formidable opponent. Yi Wanzong continued his words and said carefully, 4 of the 11 great demon kings have already fallen. The remaining 7 great demon kings are once again urgently asking Father to make a decision. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. As it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.